All right. And it's really the screen that I'm getting most. Don't worry. Okay. So we're going to start off with something you've seen. Last year you saw these TEA using high leverage protocols and practices. TEA said that PLCs should have use these high leverage protocols and practices in their PLC in school when teachers are working together for student success. It's all about that student outcome, right? And so today we're going to talk about the first one, unit module internalization. If I can have someone else read the unit internalization. What does it say? Define it as?
Step-by-step process for standard. Understanding each module. I can't see.
Okay,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
It's
Okay,
Okay, I can read it.
Okay, go.
Step-by-step process for understanding each module prior to teaching, including what students will be learning, how students will be assessed, and the high level arc of learning.
That's right.
Everybody's like this.
Okay, well, you can make it larger next time, Pearl. Okay, and so that might sound familiar because we've already done that with Amplify when we were internalizing the units in Amplify, right? And then we would do lesson internalization, and we would unpack the lesson and really internalize that. We even did some lesson rehearsal last year, a little bit of that, and we even dived into student work analysis. These are all the protocols that TA says are best practices for schools to have great student outcomes. And so this is nothing new. It's just slightly different towards our math. So today, that's what we're going to be working on, honing in on the unit module internalization, okay? And so the reason we're doing this, all of this stuff, is because we are an ESF school. We have to do the Effective Schools Framework because in the past, y'all remember that big letter that we are tied to elementary, what our score was? Okay, so elementary had some great growth last year. It was so exciting. I think we've already shared with them some of that growth, right? And kinder, my gosh, you had so much growth. It was like, wow, you saw the slide. But we still are under the ESF plan because we have to be 2 years out of that letter, okay? We have to bump up and be
We're a C. We have to maintain a C.
Maintain a C now, a second year. So this is our first year to be a C again, and we just need one more year to be out of that improved schools, considered an improved school, right? A school that needs improvement. Comprehensive, there you go. And so we are under what's called an Effective School Framework. And this framework means that if we have all of these components right here, the strategic staffing, high quality instructional materials and assessments, a positive culture, and the strong school leadership planning, but the bullseye is effective instruction. That if we have all those things, then we're doing the right work, right? So our goal is effective instruction because you can have all of those things. You can have great teachers. We can have a high quality curriculum like we do, and you'll be learning more about STEMscopes, a high quality curriculum today. And Amplify is a high quality curriculum too, also known as an OER now, Open Educational Resource. Okay, so all of those things are great, but if you don't have effective instruction, all of that's going to not work in your classroom. So that's where we're really honing into effective instruction. And how are we doing that? We're under the TIL, which is called the Texas Instructional Leadership, all these acronyms. TIL stands for Texas Instructional Leadership. And last year, our fabulous Berlita did the O&F, that's observation and feedback cycle. She did that part of the TIL program. And so we know what the outcomes were. Some of you got to work with Pearl last year, and wow, we saw you really grow. And so that whole process of coaches on campus is helping teachers, new teachers, anyone that needs and wants that support. We're having great results in the district, right? Especially here with our fabulous Pearl. And this year, we're lucky enough to have 2 now. Amy has joined in the coaching side now, and she'll be working with our teachers too, so we welcome. And she's been sitting in all of our trainings, so learning everything she can, and she's actually gonna be under Pearl. Pearl's gonna be coaching her, and so we'll learn more about all of those things we have in place for that. But we're doing Till, and she's done the O and F, Pearl has, and this year, the admin team and Pearl, because she's done the O and F, are doing the MIA, which stands for Materials Instruction Alignment. Internalization, sorry. Materials Internalization, all these acronyms, right? Alignment. So the MIA. So that's the second phase that we're doing of the TIL. Last year was the O and F with her, and we're the MIA. And what that means that Donna is going to be working very closely with first grade. If you haven't noticed, she's moved.
I put my office in there.
And she is in the first grade hall, because we know first grade needs a lot of support.
Yeah.
They have a lot of teaks. It's like that those babies leave y'all, and boom, wake up call, right? They have a lot of language arts teaks and math teaks, and there's a lot of jumps they have to have. And so Donna's going to work really hard this year, like she hasn't already, right? She's going to work really hard with first grade, mainly first grade. She will be sitting in on our PLCs and giving us all her expert advice still, and all her wealth of knowledge she has in her brain, right? And so she'll still be in here. Pearl is also going to be working closely with second grade. That's who she's going to be really doing the rollouts of internalization with, but she'll still be working with some of us. She'll still be in PLCs, right? I'm going to be working with Kinder closely this year. Don't get scared. It's all good. You're going to do great, and y'all did great last year, so she left me in good hands, right? But anyway, and Amy is going to be joining Pearl learning, and you'll see her in our Kinder PLCs as well, and she'll be sitting in pre-K PLCs. She's not going to be one of the official MIA. It's just the three of us that are really official, that they're going to be for documentation and different things. Susie over here is also doing the MIA, but next year will be her official year, but she's going to work very closely with Pearl this year. With second grade, and when Parker gets back, she's going to be really working closely with Kinder, right? Okay, and so
unofficial
they're unofficial MIA, but they've been getting the MIA training.
Yeah. So this year, Yesenia is coaching Dr. Bella, and Dr. Bella will be giving me feedback and coaching me through this internalization process. And then I am expected to give feedback to Pearl and Celia. And then next year, Amy will be like officially getting feedback. She'll be the facilitator and getting official feedback, and Susie will, and Parker will. So yeah, next year, yeah.
So a lot of coaching going on here,
Yeah.
right? And who would
I'll
have thought?
try to get
I know you're thinking, oh, that Davila, she's been here 32 years. Yeah, I've been here 32 years. I don't look it, I know. But, and I know everything. I know you think that, but I don't, okay? And so this process, I know, right? It's funny. I'm kidding. This process that we've been going through this summer, wow, I don't know everything, okay? And I'm learning just like you. Every year, there's always room to grow. It doesn't matter how you've been here, how long, and you know, all of us who've been in education that long, everything changes or the pendulum swings back. Well, there's a lot of great, exciting things happening in education, and we're really trying to help our students have that great student outcomes, right? And so we're all going to be learning, just like some of you who had Pearl coaching you last year. Wow, you grew. So this coaching business, it really does work, okay? And so we're doing this, and that's all of that information. That's a lot of acronyms, I know. And so the next slide you see is the T-test connection, because everything we do has to do with student-centered actions. If you remember in T-test, our rubric, this is just one of the dimensions, 2.2 instruction, content, and knowledge. Over here is the teacher-centered action, but over here is the student-centered action, and that's really what we're aiming for this side of the rubric, right? Nothing wrong with proficient, that's rock solid. But for example, everything we do, we have room to grow, and there is a t-test connection to what we're doing, and Donna's gonna explain that.
Okay, so one of the biggest thing, I think one of the most high leverage actions that happens in PLC through the internalization process is identifying where we might have student misconceptions and proactively planning for that. And so even when you have a brand new teacher, right, who in the moment we're teaching and then kids don't get it and you're like, what do I do? That doesn't happen because we've planned for that. We know what kids are gonna struggle with and we make plans in advance to differentiate and scaffold and all of that. And so that moves it over to that accomplished where you're anticipating possible student misunderstandings and proactively developing teaching techniques to mitigate concerns. So that's just one of the connections to T-test. There are lots of, really are lots. We could talk all about it, but you know, as you make plans for student improvement, it also, you're having all of this professional growth as well, and you can see that in the evidence on the rubric. So
Yeah. And so we've been using t-tests for a while. This is not new, this rubric, right? And who would have thought we're getting this professional development that we need to get to that side, right? It's all about that student-centered actions. That's why we're here today. All right. Okay, so what is it that we're doing? Okay, well, we use the high quality instructional materials, which is STEMscopes. It has been stamped by TEA that it is an official one. With Fidelity, we use it here with Fidelity for Tier 1 instruction. And so just so you know, we use it here, but we use it across the district. We are using it from here all the way to junior high. And last year, we saw great growth at elementary, and they used it with Fidelity. And so admin from central office above came back and said, this data is great. We're all gonna use it with Fidelity. So we are using with Fidelity. That means that I know last year we got to dive into Bluebonnet lessons and use them a little bit for Tier 1 instruction, but that's not gonna happen this year. We might be able to use some extra things for interventions, but we're gonna do Tier 1 instruction with STEMscopes, only STEMscopes, but that doesn't mean that if we dive into a unit or a lesson and we need to tweak things, we're still gonna have that, be able to do that, and we'll be talking about that during the internalization process.
kind of like Amplify when you added your teacher flair and student engagement pieces and things like that. Well, in math, you may need to add more manipulatives or acting it out or things like that.
And I think for the most part, Kendra did use
Yeah.
step to STEM.
That's why-
This is nothing new, but just so you know, you also should know that the other grade levels are solely sticking to Tier 1 instruction STEMscopes. So that's great. Y'all already know we've been with Fidelity.
It's up to you throughout.
Oh, yes, and STEMscopes is all the way up
Through
through Algebra 1
at the high school.
at the high school. So we're all diving in. In fact, the protocol that you're learning today, every campus is doing, this is the part I forgot to tell you. The TAIL program that we're under and we're doing the MIA, all administrators across the district are doing the same thing. So we've been meeting in the summer, we're gonna meet a couple of times in the year, and our Yesenia is gonna be on our campus. She's also gonna be going to elementary, she's also gonna be going to junior high, and she's gonna go see algebra at the high school, right? And so all of them came up with their own campus protocol that was similar to our campuses, all the other campuses, but ours pertains to what we're doing here for our little ones, right? But we are doing it with Fidelity across the district there. All right, and so what else are we doing? We're gonna, by having STEMscopes, we're gonna be doing the internalization protocol of the scopes and really diving into the 5E lesson cycle. So this is nothing new to y'all. So this compass just is saying that our direction is to cover all our math TEKs and all of those areas in which we teach math. And so the TEKs are always the way we need to go, that we make sure that we cover them, and STEMscopes covers them. Okay, and why are we using STEMscopes? Here's the why. It's like we said, dives into 100% of the TEKs are aligned with STEMscopes. One of the other things is that math RBs is all over STEMscopes. And so some of you may not have done the math RBs. Did anybody take it in here in the summer, that time? Math RBs, a couple people, right? Yeah, a few y'all, right? Math RBs was offered in the summer, and then we
It
took
was just leaders.
Oh, that's right.
It was just leaders across the district, yes.
That's right.
What is an RB?
We did, we're gonna learn
No,
about that.
not the fast food restaurant.
No, or, yes, not the fast food restaurant, that's right. We did do, some of y'all did the reading RBs when we were doing Amplify, and it was that last day, if you remember. And these were the RBs for reading, those foundational skills, text simplicity. I think some of you were there when we learned about Amplify. That's where we did it, or some of us did it. Well, there's actually math RBs. And so what is it? Like Donna said, it's not the fast food restaurant RBs. It stands for research-based instructional strategies, right? And for math, there are 4 that to be good at math, to really hone in on the foundational skills and know what we're doing, we need to cover these 4 things. Conceptual and procedural balance, depth of rigor of key concepts, coherence of key concepts, and productive struggle. And so what are these things? All right. So over here on the wall, we have a poster. I'm the poster queen, apparently. That's what they kept calling me, but I'm not. But I didn't know how to use, I did learn, I'm so excited because I really learned how to use Canva this summer, and Pearl was my coach for it. And so now I just love everything Canva, right? And then, yes, this is in color, but I didn't do it on the color printer. I did it on the color poster maker. And we still have ink for that. That's separate. And I can show y'all how to use the poster maker when y'all need something. But for now, we're going to go over the math RBs, which are research-based instructional strategies, and STEMscopes has these. The first RBs is the balanced conceptual and procedural. It means pursue rigor by balancing conceptual understanding, procedural skill, and fluency. Apply this balanced understanding to mathematical applications as required by standards in TEKS. And so it's really honing in and understanding those conceptual to where they become fluent. And so when we say the number 1 RBs, it's really based on the CRA model. It's really based on moving kids from the concrete to the representational, bridging the concrete to the representational to the abstract. And we know that concrete means use physical objects to explore math concept. It's the hands-on touchable tools. Do you do that in kinder? Lots of it, because you're the foundation, right? And you bridge that concrete to representational. What is that? You draw or use pictures to show the same concept. It's like you're visualizing the math, right? And you use the tools of number lines, bar models, tally marks, and dot arrays. So you represent by drawing and doing that thing. That's something kinder does, right? And then that bridges, if you have a really strong foundation in the concrete, you go to representational, and then you become strong at that before you come to the abstract, where we use numbers and symbols to solve. And you do a little bit of that when you get towards the end of kinder STEMscopes, where you're writing the equation, right? That's their first introduction of writing the equation, using numbers to show how to solve problems. Math with equations. That's the abstract. So that's what number 1 means, to move from that conceptual understanding with your hands on, to get them to the abstract. And that's the goal for every grade level. It's not just kinder. We did a lot of work this summer with CRA at the RB's math training, and they said that people who are struggling in high school and junior high, it's because they didn't have that concrete understanding. So teachers need to intervene with that hands-on experiences to get them where they need to go, because they didn't get that foundational. So kindergarten teachers are so important, because that's where it all starts. When they came to pre-K, if they came to pre-K, right? Some of our guys didn't come to pre-K, but if they came to pre-K, pre-K works a lot on that conceptual understanding, hands-on, right? And then they come to you with that, some experience with that, and then you continue that, or you begin it with your babies, and then you move towards the representational. Well, every year that continues to build till we get them to the abstract. But kids still need that at every grade, all right? So that's number one, balance of conceptual and procedural. Did y'all need something? Have some?
No.
You wanna share? Okay,
I
sorry.
want to share something
Oh, yeah, go
just
ahead.
briefly. I know we're all just getting familiar with RBs, research-based instructional strategies, and that we had the opportunity to go to this math RBs this summer, right?
Yeah.
And y'all did not, but I'm telling you, this has really changed the lens that I don't consider myself an expert at all in anything related to kinder, but this has really helped me kind of look at STEMscopes together with this CRA, so they go hand in hand, the RBs and the concrete representational abstract. So I sat with Pearl, we focused on second grade curriculum for STEMscopes, and you could look through those kind of concepts in your brain and think, these are where the gaps are. And it was really useful. So like, I just encourage you to like work on wrapping your brain around those concepts and looking at this, CRA, and we're gonna do some practice with that. It's really meaningful.
Well, that's what are you going to
Yes.
open that up to everybody, or are we gonna implement that RV strategies through our, like, collaborative process?
Yeah. Great conversation.
We don't have the PD days that we had last year, like once a month on a Friday, we would have a PD day. So we do want to bring our Region 20 person here for all teachers, and Dr. Bella is kind of working on seeing when and how we could make that happen. But in the meantime, Pearl we have our PD with Pearl, in the s'more, and so she is gonna be kind of every week going deep into each part of the RBs, and so we'll get little chunks in the s'more throughout the year.
I think
And so,
that's what because whenever we were talking about it, when we went, it was all grade levels. So we weren't, there was a lot of times where we were kind of like it didn't really apply to us. We knew like our foundation, that's what we're gonna do in kinder will help them whenever they're in fourth and fifth grade. So like, it was good for us to see that, but there was a lot of times where we were just like kind of, so I think that if we, like what you're doing, the bite-sized chunks would be beneficial because it's primary based.
and connect it to, connect it to your content,
correct.
right? As opposed to a
Algebra
broad,
Other content.
yeah,
Other
cow.
curriculum.
where we're looking at, 8th grade.
But I was good, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna be applying
yes,
it here in
yes.
PC.
And you'll see, we've already been applying it somewhat, but I don't know, like Susie said, I love what she said, is that you see it all over STEMscopes, right? You see, okay, maybe there's not enough of this. No program is perfect. Okay, we know STEMscopes is not perfect, but it is been stamped that is a HQIM. And so, but we can make it, if we need to add more conceptual work, then we will. That's what the goal is. And you'll see that when we do the internalization process.
Well, I think,
And that's also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
okay. Oh, I think of STEMscopes as like all of your ingredients, and like if you're not a strong cook and you don't really know, then you want to go to a fast food restaurant.
Yes.
But STEMscopes has everything. We just kind of need to figure out what to put.
Love that visual. Absolutely true. It's kind of like Susie said, she may not have been a strong math person, but these RBs are really helping her hone in on the important stuff. And so we don't have the RBs training right now, but we're gonna be sprinkling it in throughout the year when we're looking at things and going back, and that's why we have a poster on the wall. We're gonna be referring to it. We refer to it throughout the whole presentation. You'll see Math RBs is not a curriculum program. It's research-based instructional strategies. And every HQIM needs to have this and does have it. That's why it's hard to get stamped at, because it needs to be really in the right work. The CRA model and that are closely connected. So you're gonna hear us talking a lot about that. We're gonna be sprinkling it. But it also reminded me, Alyssa, what you said is, you are one of the people that has kind of been sprinkling what you said in, because your son is in upper grade, and sometimes when we're sitting in PLCs, Bonnie Cordova does it too. This is important because we're doing the foundational work here, but when they get to Kinsley's grade, or when they get to my son's grade, they're doing this work. This is where it starts. It's making that hands-on connection to what they're going to be doing abstractly in future years to come. So those kind of conversations have been taking place, but it's important to share that, right? Because we think, oh, this is so primary, right? But no, this is where it all begins, that
And
work.
I think she related it a lot to the junior high and high school area, because they need to understand that if there's not that concrete, even in their grades, if there's not that concreteness going on in their classes, and the students come in already missing that gap, then it's gonna be really hard for them to even be successful in the algebra 1 and the geometry.
Your
So that's-
secondary teachers a lot of times tend to just lean on the abstract, right? Just teach them the formula. It'll be, you know.
So that's why it's so important that when we're here, we are teaching the solid foundation of the concrete and how to manipulate. Because it's like when you teach a baby how to walk, right? They can't go through all the processes until, they can't walk until they learn how to like scoot and crawl and then eventually walk. So our kids can't learn how to, our kids have to start here with the concrete so that they can learn how to move forward, so that when it starts relating and just keeps going and keeps going, so that when they get to the high school area, they're not struggling with the part of how to break it down.
And so those interventions at the upper grade really need to hone in on the CRA model. Great stuff. Okay. Oh, and this is linked and dropped into your STEMscopes folder, so we'll see this everywhere. Okay, we're gonna go to the second one. Wow, that was a lot for the first one, right? Number 2 is depth of key concepts. Focus on math content that aligns to and meets the rigor of the TEKS for each grade level, while concentrating time and effort on going deep on the most important topics for the grade level. And so we say a lot, we need to stay in our lane, right? We really need to build that foundation. Some of our kids do need to get some higher level to meet their needs and differentiate. And some of our kids are not at that tier 1 level, right? And we have to support them to bring them up. But this program, this RBs is really important because we have to dive into the rigor of the concept. All right? The third one is coherence of key concepts. Connect key concepts within and across grades along a strategic progression of learning so that new understandings are built on previous foundations. Mathematics tells a continuous story, connected story. And so there was a time when we got to take this unit and move it over here because we thought it was the best to put it right here. Well, so what we're going to do, it's that continuous story. STEMscopes is in order for a reason. It builds upon unit to unit, right? And this skill over here is important to this one over here. And so it's built on previous foundations, so in your grade level, along with built on previous foundations from vertically, from kinder to first, that progression. Not only do the TEKS progress, that vertical alignment, but so do the units. Kind of like Amplify, where our units, we're setting foundation. Who would have thought learning about a war or frontier, beginnings, but it builds on every year so that when they get to 5th grade, they're going to have all this knowledge that built on, starting with the colonies, or whatever. So they build upon each other. So we are going to go in order of the scope and sequence that STEMscopes does provide for us, and you'll learn more about that today. And then RB's number 4, productive struggle. Boy, this was one of Donna's favorite 2 words, productive struggle. She talked a lot about this and how STEMscopes during those explorers, they need to be doing that productive struggle. It's a lot of times we want to fix the problem and do it for them and dive in and help them, but they need to learn through their productive struggle. And so that's when students engage in productive problem solving, engaging in multiple opportunities for practice and discussion, representations, and writing that requires them to explain and revise their thinking. So those math journals are so important. Thinking out loud, turning and talking, pairing up kids to work collaboratively in groups. All of those things that STEMscopes does provide those opportunities. Those math chats, right? And you having all those open-ended questions without giving them the answer and helping guide them. So that productive struggle, we're gonna see that happening in STEMscopes. So that is what we call the Math RV's research-based instructional strategies. Okay, so that, it was one of the important things that's all over STEMscopes. We also are gonna reduce variability in instruction. That means whatever is happening in Maite's classroom and happening in Hicks' classroom is gonna be about the same. Now, we've talked about it, we know it, we add our teacher flair, what works for you, but the content that the students are learning, the skills, the opportunities is the same across the grade level, right? So it reduces variability in instruction. We also have built-in support for delivery of instruction and differentiation. Our new STEMscopes format, yes, there's a new format, I don't know if you've heard. It is up and running, and we'll show you where to find it. It's not the old STEMscope circle, colorful emblem, it's an A for, it's an A for
Accelerate Learning.
Accelerate Learning, the company that does it. And so we'll show you at the very end how to access that, and we'll give you some few quick tips on how to navigate if we have time, but you will be getting a little information about that. But that is, there is all kinds of ways to deliver instruction and differentiation. I know Donna was exploring in there and found some really neat things of how we can differentiate for our kids. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, the new version has a lot of supplemental materials for differentiation. I found one that was designed for our ED students, and so the language is differentiated based on, and the content differentiated based on beginner, intermediate, advanced for ED students. But when I looked at it, I'm like, this is great for all kids. Like it was really good for all kids. And so I thought, there's a lot in there now that we didn't have before. So I think it's gonna be really great.
Yeah, because all of our students are language learners, right? Yeah.
Yes.
All of them, yes.
Especially
Yeah.
this age.
Especially in the primary campus. Okay, and then we know this real world applications. Sometimes we thought last year in STEMscopes, wow, those stories are really, woo! But it does have real world applications, and so we'll be really internalizing the lessons, and if we need to tweak things, we can, but it does need to foster those real world applications because students can really relate to the content, right? Okay, so that's the why STEMscopes. Why internalize scopes and lessons, which today we'll be internalizing the scope. But why are we doing that? One, it definitely gives us a deeper understanding of the content. Two, the alignment with intent of curriculum goals and rigor. We really know what the goal is and the rigor when we internalize. It also it's for improved lesson delivery, because when we really internalize a lesson, the best teach is the first teach. Yes, the best teach is the first teach. And I know I use this example that at high school, you have a teacher like Donna Manier. She taught how many classes? 5 classes, right? 6. And so when Donna would go in and maybe she didn't internalize, I doubt that, I'm sure she internalized all her lessons, but I'm just using an example.
First period was a guinea pig.
Yeah, exactly. First period was guinea pig, but I can tell you that 5th period got the best lesson.
Yeah, they did.
So when we say we internalize lessons and the first teach is the best teach, because we've internalized it, our kids, we're gonna rock that first lesson that we give, the only lesson that we give them. And then there'll be more explore opportunities in that skill, but we'll know exactly what we're doing, right? This also, the why to internalize differentiation and equity. We internalize it and differentiate for our kids, and equity, making sure that we all give our kids what they need time efficiency, making those lessons really efficient, through the process and all the plans that we have. And, they help, to internalize helps us to grow professionally, right? That professional growth. So that is the why we're internalizing, okay? And how will we accomplish all of this? Wow, that's a lot. So we talked earlier about Till and Mia. We are going to continue to have Till and Mia training for admin, CCIS, and instructional coaches. We are going to have ongoing Region 20 support and coaching. Kind of like, how we had Texas Lesson Study with Amplify? Well, we're having this ongoing Region 20 support and coaching for math this year. All right? And then we have PLC.
But that coaching is for us.
That coaching is for us.
Somebody is not gonna come,
Yeah.
like Cindy came last year, presented,
Not
that.
Not that.
It's coaching for us so that we can do that
Yes.
facilitation.
The MIA program, yes, exactly. Did y'all have something?
I liked
We
her.
like
Yeah.
Cindy, we're like, I know.
Oh, Sydney?
Cindy.
Oh, Cindy for STEMscopes?
Yeah.
Oh, I know, we all love her. Yes.
She was great.
I actually reached out to her through email, yesterday, but she hasn't returned it, an email back. But yeah, she was great. And she's still there. She always said we could eat more if we had a question. And that's what I did. All right. PLC facilitation and modeling of internalization by admin, CCIS, and ICs. Yes, we're gonna do a lot of the facilitating at the beginning. We're gonna definitely do that throughout the year, and then we're going to slowly give it to leaders, and we're gonna slowly do it together, but we're not on our own. I know we moved kind of fast with Amplify last year, and we really had that going, and this year we're gonna slow things down a little bit, and it's really gonna be us facilitating, but we are gonna be joining hands, and other people will be facilitating, especially the leaders will be helping us. And then we're gonna cut the cord eventually. But all of that in good time, don't worry. All right? So you'll get plenty of us. You'll be so tired of us. It'll be okay. All right, and then of course, this isn't new. It all sounds familiar because we have previous experience in internalization. And we are in a really good place as a campus because we've done the work already. We've seen the results. So we have some experience with this. So this is nothing new. We're just going to be using it with math now. All right. Okay. So now we're going to pass out the scope and we're going to get started. We're going to give you 3 minutes to look over it. Just glance it, just skim it. You don't have to know everything about it. We'll go through it. But we're going to just look at the scope. So we're going to take a few minutes. As soon as everybody gets a copy, we'll pass it down. We'll give you 3 minutes to just kind of glance yourself. Just yourself. Take it in. I set a 3-minute timer.
Everybody have a copy?
Everybody have a copy? Okay, 3 minutes just to skim the protocol. Purpose of scope internalization. Yes, that's your copy, absolutely.
And we are getting, so Dr. Bella likes nice things. So we are getting the Cadillac version of STEMscopes. And it will include the teacher guide in a spiral bound book, and you will get to write on it, because it's not, like Amplified teacher editions are super expensive, and so we can't write on them because we have to, keep them for years. But the STEMscopes teacher guides are not super expensive, and so Dr. Vela said we're just gonna reorder them every year so teachers can write in them, because it is much easier when you're internalizing. We're gonna get the student journal also will be in print. I don't know if that includes the exit ticket, so we'll still have some things we have to print, but far less than previously, so.
And we haven't done those materials.
Miss Barron is calling, I have to.
I gotta take that. So, we have about 1 minute, a little less than 1 minute to keep internalizing for go. We can talk about the materials in just a little bit.
So we don't know when we're getting them.
No, we haven't gotten them yet, but we will be getting soon.
It's revamped from last year. I'm just thinking sometimes there was a disconnect between the assessment and the explore.
Yes, we'll talk about, no worries, we'll get to that.
What you have too today, what you'll be looking at, we did make a copy of the teacher's guide for you. So like, if this is your first scope, you'll have it, even though the official one has not come in, you'll still have it.
Yeah.
We'll
We'll talk about more in just a minute, no worries, no worries.
You got
Just a few more seconds. Okay, we'll go ahead, I know y'all have a lot of questions, but we'll go ahead and talk about it. Okay, so let's share out a couple of things you noticed before we go over this protocol. What's a few things you noticed about this protocol?
This is very similar to language arts.
Absolutely, right? Nothing new, very similar. Yes, what else? Anybody else want to share out something they noticed?
The reason I was asking about the assessment is because I was reading in here about looking at the activities, the explore activities, and seeing how they connect to the assessment. And I feel like we did that last year.
Yes.
And sometimes they did not.
Yes, absolutely, kiss your brain hits, you're right. We did, that this is nothing new, we're just gonna dive a little deeper, yes, absolutely. Anybody else wanna share out? One other person.
Yeah, something I started was step 2, the second bullet where it says complete the Internalization assessment from the perspective of the student. It kind of tied back to something earlier Donna was talking about for our T-test, about those misconceptions. So I'm like, well, I really need to hone in on that because that reflects, outcome as well as the kids. Like, that's something that I'm gonna really look into.
Yes, great. Okay, and so that's a couple of things you noticed, just so you know, the purpose of scope, internalization, all of those things. We're gonna actually walk through this process today. We're gonna show you exactly what each step entails with Unit 1. We're gonna guide you through this process and we're gonna do it together today. But just so you know, the purpose of the scope internalization is it identifies what students will learn. It outlines how students will be assessed. It describes that high level arc of learning, and it helps teachers see how each lesson fits into the big picture prior to using the 5E lesson cycle internalization protocols. And like Hicks said, yes, we did this work last year. Maybe we weren't as consistent all the time, but we did dive into doing the work, and we're gonna continue to grow in that area. So you'll see that, okay? So we are going to, if you didn't notice, there is pre-work. You didn't have to do pre-work, but when we internalized, just like last year, I would send out those emails on Friday, and it's like, you probably thought, who has time to do this pre-work before Monday, right? For Amplify. I know what you were thinking. We were thinking it too. And Pearl and I were just trying to squeeze it in before you came, right? And some of you never read the email. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Or you just ignored it. Right? It's okay. It's okay. So, actually, I know. Oh, that's another double email. Pass that one. Delete, right? Delete it. It's not talking to me. I know. have a morning to plan, so you'll be getting your pre-work in enough time to do it during the day conference, no worries. And if you didn't notice, can someone read the pre-work there?
Read the scope introduction and skim the content support document.
Pretty fairly easy, no work, you're not gonna do, some things, you know, you don't have to read the whole chapter or do all that, the whole unit, all in one. It's just a quick overview for the pre-work for most of the time for the scope, okay? So, but the first is the pre-work. We're gonna read the scope introduction in the TE. So right now, everyone needs to pull out their packet. This is your packet. In this packet, this is a copy of your TE. It is an overview of the unit. Online, it'll be kind of bluish, but we couldn't even run the color yet. We had to save the ink, right? And so this is a copy of Teacher Edition. You are gonna get a hard copy of the Teacher Edition that has all the units.
Is it all in one or is it like?
It's all one I don't know if it's spiral or bound, we haven't seen them yet, but we're excited. You are gonna have a hard copy, that is what Dawn has said, y'all get to write on the hard copy. But for
section.
yes, there is gonna be note section, and so, but to start with, since we don't have it, we're gonna be writing on here to internalize, okay? So, for beginning, for pre-work, this would have been something you did before, but we're doing it in here, okay? You're going to read the scope introduction for count objects. That's our first unit, count objects. Online, the symbol hasn't changed. You remember this little symbol for count objects unit? And there's the teaks that are covered in count objects. So very briefly, we're gonna read the scope, introduction. Okay, we're only gonna put a 3-minute timer, okay? I'm gonna give you a chance to read the scope introduction, and that entails it's really just the top part. You don't have to read, just read the top part of scope summary. That'll give us the introduction to the unit.
It'll give you an idea of what the pre-work is that you're gonna experience.
Okay, how are we doing? Did everybody finish that part?
Yeah.
Are we good? Thumbs up with everybody? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and stop the timer. We wanna make sure we gave you enough time. So right now, we're not talking about it. This would have been the pre-work that you would have come in here reading that part. The next part of the pre-work is in the content support document. That is not in your TE. That's online, and we printed it for you. So when you come in here, we'll have this part printed. If we have our teacher editions, we won't have to print this part for you. You'll have your book, you'll bring it, but this part we will. Content support. So on the website, the content support, remember our tabs were at the top? So at the end, you'll get a little tutorial, hopefully, of what it looks like now. They're on the side. And right here, it just shows the content support is on the side. That's where we got this part from. We copied it for you, printed it out. And so we'll have that part coming in here. So we're gonna skim the content support document. Skim doesn't mean to read it all. No, it just means to look over it. So go ahead and we're gonna give you 2 minutes, a minute and a half to skim it. You're just skimming it. So glance over your content support document. The the additional copy, it's in your packet, it should be behind
It's this one.
the teacher edition. Yes.
It's a separate package.
It's a separate staple tag,
Okay.
because it wasn't in the teacher
Take
edition.
note of what you noticed in the, while you're looking at it.
Yeah, just skim over it, look at the text, the background knowledge, misconceptions, skim. Glance. So, the pre-work will be done ahead of time, I'll just skim over it. So that when you come in to internalize the scope, you'll have an idea of what we're gonna be talking about. Okay. Well, I think everybody skimmed it. How was the skimming? Was it a lot of work? No. Okay, so the plan is you'll get these in advance. We'll give it to you in your mailbox for enough time to to spend, not waste, sorry, let me pick another word.
That's why we don't
Not
have
waste. What I meant to say is, we don't wanna waste too much of your personal time. So that took a whole, 5 minutes? We gave you 5 minutes. You might be a slower skimmer, and you might need 5 to 10 minutes. That's okay, but that's gonna be the pre-work to, before we come in to internalize a new scope, okay? That won't happen every PLC, a new scope. It'll be, spread out, obviously, okay? And so, those are the 2 things that our pre-work blocks had. All right, so that was all the pre-work, so now, we're gonna move on to the first step of your internalization, all right, of the process. Number 1, this is where we're at. We're gonna be guiding you through this process. Step 1, if you notice, has how many bullets? 3 bullets. So we're gonna be doing these 3 bullets, all right? So the first bullet is, can someone read the first bullet, the bold print?
Read the scope summary, vertical alignment.
The summary and vertical alignment. Okay, so we're gonna go back to our teacher edition, this copy 1, the first one we looked at, and we're gonna read the scope summary and vertical alignment in the TE. Remember, you're gonna get a hard copy of your TE. We made a copy today, but you'll get 2. And you are going to annotate content progression. You're gonna evaluate importance in the scope summary and the vertical alignment. You're gonna think about future learning expectations, and you're gonna identify background knowledge gaps. And so this was gonna take a little longer. We'll be doing step 1 in PLCs. You're gonna look at, understand the big picture, step 1, read the scope summary and vertical alignment, and you're gonna take notes. We have highlighters in there, or you can write with a pen, or you can put stickies. You really don't have to put stickies, but if you want to write more and you don't have enough room on your paper, you can use the stickies in the boxes. But we're going to give you 5 minutes to read the scope summary and vertical alignment and do that. Annotate content progression, evaluate importance, look at the future learning expectations, and identify knowledge gaps. That's what we're gonna do. You have a question, guys?
Okay, so I get how to do that. So is this, when you said that's gonna be the part we'll do, is that set for today, or is that like every unit that we pull out?
Oh, we're gonna do it at the internal internalization process, all of these steps, every time we're gonna do a new scope.
So the thing that we would need
place
is that,
here.
is this part is,
Right.
like when
Yes,
that comes out.
that's absolutely right. That's the pre-work before you come in here. Absolutely, you got it. Okay, so step one, go ahead and start. This is only by yourself, okay? You're focusing in, you're not doing this with a team. It's not teamwork. It's not pair up and share, right? Not yet, okay? So you're internalizing this yourself. Because what you think is important may not be the person next to you think is important. So, go ahead. Scope summary and vertical alignment. How are we doing? How many minutes do you still need?
I'm done.
You're done? Is everyone done? Okay, well, go ahead. Okay. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna turn and talk to the person next to us and discuss what you wrote down or what you noticed, and then we'll have a few share out. So you can talk to your neighbors. Turn and talk and share with them what you highlighted, noticed, underlined, and then we'll have some share outs.
Okay, so
Okay.
just kidding.
You should see my
I was telling her that I really got back to me when she kept setting at times where like she gave, for example, having her kids counting like the numbers how it's going and every day. And I feel that I was explaining I was at the point where I was kind of, but I felt like I lost that because here I discussed that I teach to this, that I lost that little teacher clear because I was didn't know where to fit it. So I figured out that I was going to create having that and my level have our room counting time.
Okay, let's come back together in 3, 2, 1. Okay, who wants to share out what their neighbor and them discussed? Who wants to start? Share some things, some findings that you've noticed, that you annotated or underlined, or what did you notice about the scope summary and the vertical alignment?
So we noticed that the background knowledge that it expects them to come in with, a lot of our kids are lacking that. So that's something that is gonna make it more difficult to get to that end goal. You're really gonna have to bring down
Okay.
the instruction, because you've got kids that were not in pre-K.
Absolutely. Okay, so you notice that it sounds like they should be coming in through the background knowledge, is what I hear you saying.
It sounds like this first unit is a review of what they should already know, but a lot of, not a lot, but you'll have quite a few that don't have it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, so good thought, good notice, and we'll be talking about some misconceptions real soon. And so that's one of the things we can talk about, how some of our kids don't come in knowing this, okay? What else, who else noticed something over
I
here?
noticed up on top of the scope summary where it says like it's important to stay within 20, and then because we're building that foundation, we have to have a true understanding of cardinality and one's to one's correspondence and all that. But I also noted how it said the daily numeracy activities help these students with these standards. And I know we use those slides, but maybe not as consistently as we should. And they're really great, and they're already pre-built if it's still the same like from last year, so.
Okay, yes,
It's really good, yeah.
okay, you noticed that,
That's
good.
kind of what Stephanie said about the daily numeracy.
How some of these things are practiced only in the daily
Yes.
numeracy, right? And you'll see that when we dive into the suggested scope, the calendar that they suggest, you'll see daily numeracy embedded every day. And so we'll talk some more things, yeah. So that's something we have to realize, that they should come in knowing all of this. It's a review. You saw what pre-K did, right? What they, if they came to pre-K, and if they retain what they learned in pre-K over the summer, right? That's what the background knowledge. Okay, and what, anybody notice anything on the future expectation? Anything notice?
It's a big jump. It's a big jump.
It's a big jump. What do you mean big jump? Clarify.
Students count within 120. So, forward and backwards, reading and writing the numbers up to 120. So it's just like,
Yeah, they're having to read and write. In kinder, we just start orally counting to 100. So they're going from, they're having to actually, like, the abstract,
Right,
writing.
right.
I'm
I'm glad
glad
you
it's
noticed
like
that,
a rope count all day, but then they can't tell you what it is or where it's at, or what
Right,
it
okay.
represents, so that's.
Right, I'm
yeah.
glad you noticed that, Hicks, and you're right, Zuniga. It sounds like we're moving real fast from the concrete to the representational to the abstract, right? In kindergarten, in the first scope. So that's one of the things we're gonna have to really reflect on when we're diving into the Explore. Is it moving too fast for our kiddos from concrete to representational to abstract? Because remember, STEMscopes, this is not a curriculum program, this is a model we should be following. So if we see, like Donna said earlier, if we see that it's moving too fast for us, we need to, when we are internalizing, we need to decide what we're gonna do to help our kids grow in the concrete before we get them to move to the abstract. Okay, to make that bridge, right? So they can cross it easily over to the next representational and abstract. So good thinking. So you notice all those things. That's what our, anybody want to share one more thing before we move on? Okay, you're good? Okay, so we're moving on. To the next bullet. Okay, we're still in step 1. It says, understand the big picture. read the summaries of the Explore activities. Okay, so in your teacher edition, you have the front page, so the second page is on the back. On the second page, there are summaries of the Explore activities. So you're gonna read each of this. We're not diving into the Explore activities. This is a scope internalization, so we're briefly looking at all the Explore activities that are gonna take place here. And in these, like Hicks made a reference to that CRA model, we're gonna be identifying in these Explore activities summaries, we're gonna identify CRA progression and how it builds from lesson to lesson, from Explore to Explore, okay? So we're gonna give you 5 minutes or less. We'll gauge the time when we get closer and we're ready to share out. We'll do the same process. You'll only do this by yourself because remember, you're internalizing this, not you and your partner. Because what you might think is important might be a different important to them. So you're writing on your document, annotating, sticky notes, highlight, whatever you want to do like you did on the front. So go ahead. We're going to identify CRA progression and how it builds from lesson to lesson on the Explore activities. Does anyone need more time with the show fingers? No, we're all good? Okay, go ahead and take a minute or two to discuss it with your person sitting next to you. Turn and talk, and then we'll share out a few things you noticed.
And I feel like that lesson is the abstract, because it doesn't seem, I mean, they have a non-connection, but right, so, I
Maybe but just to expose it to, like, is this meant for exposure? And then my thing is, say they're
very interesting. That's why I was thinking, not that everyone has to go through it, because eventually they'll be there, but like, if they need that,
Okay, I think we're ready to share now.
that's why I was asking about the.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
For those connections.
Okay, who wants to share out what their partner and them talked about? I heard.
We're gonna piggyback.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
You go.
so I jumped right to 4 and I had a question. I go, I don't know if it's just me, like, how am I expected, you know, the other explorers 1 to 3 are to 10, and then 4 it goes to 20. And I know there's that phrase that says who are ready, and I'm thinking, okay, so what do I do if they're not ready? So those types of questions, and then she was talking about, you wanna go?
I said on Explore 3 and 4, like, for those real life experiences, some of our kids have never been exposed to an elevator. So, or a subway, so I said like, or if they have, it's going to 3. So even just getting that hook, like showing the top building of a skyscraper. Hey, this has 20 floors, how do you think we get to the top? Somebody may say they know, but then, okay, so if you go in, there's an elevator, and showing them different keypads of how you can go all the way up to 20 and how it's laid out of actual ones. And then same thing with the subway, like they're gonna have to know what a subway is, where they're located, what the purpose is, and even a subway map before they can understand, like, oh, these are all the stops, this is what we're doing, where we're going.
So she shared something that sounds silly, but it is a misconception, because if you say it's a subway, they're gonna think of a restaurant.
A sandwich.
Yeah,
Absolutely, because that's what they're exposed to around here, that's what
So we
subway
would just
means
have
to
to have
them.
that teacher magic and just kind of let them know before the
Yeah.
process.
So those are all great things you noticed about the explorers. And we'll be able to dive in when we do lesson internalizations to come up with things that can help them
And
with
I
that,
wanna
right?
talk really quick about the, because, you know, we know the explorer, that's the meat of the lesson. That's that's the instruction, that's the new learning. And before the explorer, sometimes we have a skills basic, right? That where we have to teach them to use a new tool. We have that accessing prior knowledge, right? To see if they're ready for this lesson. And then we have this hook that sometimes has very little value, and the questions that are asked. And I know that previously we were taught that the hook is like one of those, like, this is a mandatory piece. Well, I'm telling you, it is not. It is the hook is sometimes, like, the idea of the accessing prior knowledge and the hook is that you're preparing kids' brains for the explorer, right? And we can do that in lots of different ways, and it doesn't have to be through that accessing prior knowledge and that hook. We just have to create this lead-in, right? We wanna assess, like, where are they at? Are they ready for the explorer? So the accessing prior knowledge is good. Sometimes, like, we might revamp it, right? We might want, maybe it's accessing prior knowledge, and we're like, but we also wanna know if they can do this, this, and this, so we're gonna create something more to this accessing prior knowledge. Or you look at the Explore and you're like, this is a pretty straightforward Explore, like, I don't need this accessing prior knowledge, it's not complicated. Explore, I already, maybe through daily numeracy or whatever, I already know what they know, I don't need this accessing prior knowledge. And so I'm just gonna do a little mini like hook to lead them into the Explore to like engage their brain, right? Because sometimes like we're losing time by we spend an entire block on that accessing prior knowledge, foundation builder, and hook, a whole 60 minutes, like what? And that's not even the meat of the lesson, you know, that's just, it's supposed to be this little, you know, like, let's just see what they can do and lead them into the lesson. And so just know that that is no longer one of those, you must do the hook things.
Can we tweak the Explore, like, if so we don't have to go into this detail of the subway, like, could we tweak that to be something different?
We'll talk about that during the lesson internalization when we discover certain things. I think, you know, exposing things to kids like what an elevator and a subway is, that's all really good. But if we get to a lesson and we feel like some of those details are going to hinder their ability to do the math, or now it's gonna take me 2 whole blocks of 60-minute blocks to do this because of there's too much unknown background knowledge, right?
And remember, we wanna like, keep in mind that one of our, make it relevant, so like that's part of that.
And there will be times when we find in STEMscopes that they're not providing the context that we need, or it's not relevant to our population, and so we'll tweak, yes.
Okay. And so on this, speaking of RVs, on this, so when we were looking at the Explorer, what did you notice about the CRA progression and then how it builds from Explore to Explore?
So
Anybody have that conversation?
We
Yes.
noticed,
Okay.
I wrote down like the little things for each one.
Okay.
So like the first one was, the first one was the concrete and the representational, that was Explore 1. And then Explore 2 had all 3.
Okay.
So they're already writing numerals in Explore 2. And then Explore 3 was back to just concrete. And then Explore 4 was concrete and representational. So you have that, we were like, that's a big jump in one lesson to go from concrete all the way to abstract.
Right.
So.
I wasn't even sure, like when I read Explore 1 and they're already drawing a picture, I'm like, I don't know, I don't know that we're writing, like, that concrete is so important. You don't wanna jump to the next thing too quickly because there really should be this bridge, and in first grade yesterday, same situation, right? We were seeing all 3 within like the first Explore. And so teachers were talking and having conversation, kind of like y'all just were. Dr. Vella asked me, like, so if they don't do the abstract in the first Explore, are you gonna run out of time then? Like, what if they don't get to the numbers? Well, when will they? And are we gonna run out of time? And Callie Evans brought up, she was like, oh no, because she loves to dig in and move forward and look. She's a very much a planner like you. Sometimes she's looking forward. She's looking forward all the time. She's like, oh no, we got 4 scopes of this. We're adding and subtracting for 4 scopes. So if we build a super strong concrete foundation, then the later scopes, when we do say, okay, pictures and numbers, it's gonna be so much easier for them because they have this super solid concrete foundation. So, yes.
And so, yes, so all of those things are gonna happen when we really dive into the Explorers during lesson internalization. We'll be able to make those tweaks and decisions, but I'm so glad you noticed the progression happen, because that is one of the things we did notice.
I also think that it's more about like differentiating too. So like while some students are on concrete, we can move some
Correct.
students, you know.
And it says that in the 3, if some of our students, I think it was 3, are ready,
If they're ready.
but, and then we also know that if we remember what the background knowledge said, STEMscopes thinks that all of our kids are gonna come back knowing what they learned in pre-K. Yeah, and so they're gonna dive right into Explore 1 doing all these things, and we know that's not the reality of it, right? And so we'll be able to dive in, and build some of those explores in a little bit better for our hands-on to cover the CRA model, right? We did see the CRA model in here, it's just all over the place, right? And so, which explore is the most difficult right here in these lists? Just looking at these summaries, which one do you think is gonna be the most difficult for our students? Okay, I see a 2 over here. 2? Okay. We've had 2.
I would say
It's the most difficult for, because even though we have kids coming in for pre-K, some of them still can't count to 10.
Orally, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, so if they're not counting, they're not recognizing numbers. You
I
know?
think the writing the numerals part on the Explore 2, how it has all 3, I think that's gonna be the toughest, cause your kids that can't count aren't gonna recognize the numbers, like how to write them either.
Okay.
I think I feel like the 4 was more abstract just because it is, but it's allowing them to enhance their problem solving abilities. But if they're still kids that have never been exposed to school, they don't have that yet. So like, you know, that's gonna, I feel like that would be our area, but it
And they have
say-
to count forward and backward from a given number, any number within 20. So like, start at 5 and count to 20, or start at 17 and count back to 0 or to 1. Yeah, that's hard.
Not only do they have to be able to create this imaginary subway in their head, but they also are gonna have to be able to do the mathematical concepts as well. And so I feel like that's a little broad, but we'll get there.
Yes, we will. And the next bullet that we're going to is our last bullet in step 1, and I promise you we're gonna take a break after. We just wanna get to the first one, okay? And so, great stuff, great conversation. Remember all of that, because now we're gonna look at and read the suggested scope calendar, and we're gonna, okay, so step 1, understand the big picture. We're still on step 1. The suggested scope calendar is this baby right here. We printed it out for you, suggested scope calendar, all right? And in our website, remember the tabs were at the top. This is just a visual, the way it looks on the new one. It's gonna be right here under the scope overview. You're gonna, when I set this, let's just take a walk, open it up. And this suggested scope calendar was created by the STEMscopes people. So when Donna and I were planning out our lessons for the year, because we're gonna show you that in just a minute, the kinder domain and scope guides, we referred to this. We looked at every grade level, and it had a suggestion, what should you do in day 1? What should you do in day 2? It had the warm-up options. It had the whole group, 45 to 60 minutes, what they should do. Maybe it was just a skills basic or 2 skills basic for the day. And the next day they started the Explore. Maybe the Explore only was 1 day and it went on to the next part. You know, but this is suggested. That doesn't mean we have to stick completely to it. But we do know that we have so many scopes and so many explores and so many days on the school calendar, right? So we do need to get through it. So we did use this as the suggested scope, and I keep referring to suggested because we're gonna see now that we have the kinder domain and scope guides, and we're gonna click on it. You do have this in your drive, but it is linked here. All right.
This part be in the TE?
This is not in the TE. We printed it out for you, and we will print it out for you every time we do a unit scope internalization.
This too, right?
Yes, any of these except for
all of that.
except for the TE, because you'll have a physical copy.
So
Okay.
these grayer pages, right?
Yes, that was really supposed to be blue, but we saved the ink right. The color printer, yes.
Good job.
And so we will be printing these for you when we do scope internalization. But you will have access to them online, but for internalization, you will be printing. Okay, so we don't have our computers out, but we do want to show you in your drive, in PLC, in Kinder folder, you will find just on the overview, not on any other one, just to open at the bottom, you'll find the overview, okay, of this right here. The first tab is the year. It's copied directly from the district calendar. It's just the days we're in school. The green, everybody knows what the green is, right? The holidays, okay? That's what the green is there. Okay, the second tab, what we've done this year is we've combined two different calendars on one, so you have a one-stop shop, right, for your Amplify and your Math STEMscopes lessons. And so this is just what the domains are for Kinder. It's kind of like the table of contents. It tells us what the domains are for Amplify. Knowledge, you don't have to have skills because it's skills 1, skills 2, skills 3, right? And then the Kinder units, the scopes, right here. So then we go to August, and here's our August. The yellow days are what we're in right now. And the first week of school starts on August 12th, right next week, next Tuesday. And we have routines and procedures there for a whole week because we heard you. We heard when you said we ran too fast last year, right? But last year we did have less days. And we were trying to cram in STEMscopes and Amplify days into a shorter calendar year. This year, we do have a little bit more flexibility, not too much, but we do have a cushion and we were able to give you the routines and procedures. But those routines and procedures could be a lot of things. They could be your classroom routines and procedures, coming in, where you line up, tour the cafeteria, the library, all the important people on campus, you know, all that stuff. But it also could be your behavior management, right? That's routines and procedures. But not only that, you'll have time to dive into some of these things in background knowledge that they say they should be coming to. They should be counting, right? Well, guess what? You'll have time to count. You'll have time to pull out those manipulatives and show them how to use the manipulatives. Okay, so yes, we're diving in on the 18th to the first lesson, but you will have some flexibility to here to do all of those things to prepare them for this first unit. And just to show you this scope, we did all in one. We have skills and knowledge, which is the Amplify, and all the way across the skills, the knowledge, we even put SLAR in there. We didn't leave out our SLAR people. We looked at their lesson. They do knowledge too, so it's the same, but their SLAR skills is different. And then we have the Math Scope. That's the one we're looking at today. So Math Scope 1 starts on August 18th. APK, what does it mean?
Accessing prior knowledge.
Accessing prior knowledge, kiss your brain. FB, not Facebook. Who knows what FB stands for? What?
The foundation builder.
Yes, foundation builder, that was another activity, right? And everybody knows the hook.
Yes.
So when we heard Donna give her spill a while ago, we know that maybe that hook wasn't the best hook. Maybe we dived right in, okay, and we just do a quick little introduction and boom, we're in the Explore. That's okay too, we're gonna be looking at that, right? But our lessons are, we did go by the scope, suggested scope, and we built it like the second day, it does have the skill builder and counting to 5, the scope. That's just the skill builder, counting to 5 for that day. The next day is when you dive into Explore 1. And then the next day, it's Math Scope, and it's a skills basic, 10 frame and strips. And then the next day, you dive into Explore 2. When we're looking at our lessons for the week, we can decide to have some flexibility of tweaking, or maybe that Explore might take 1.5 days instead of 1. So we'll have some. So this is going to be a working document. You do notice that we move along, here's the Explore 4, it's only 1 day, and we have this day afterwards that says review, practice, and hook. So I'm gonna let Donna talk to that because she made a really good point about reviewing before an assessment.
Oh, yes, okay. I'm like, what did I say?
Yes.
Yes, so, it is not best practice to, review right before an assessment. Does anyone know why?
Because they're not retaining it.
Because you have no idea if kids are cause you just, like, if they're just regurgitating what they remember from yesterday, or if they really internalized what you taught them throughout that scope. So that day, even though, like, we put it right next to the assessment, and that's kind of what it said in the calendar, like, there's this review day, to me, that day is better used as a buffer for, like, when you get to a scope and you're like, oh, no, we need an extra day with this explore because, I said scope, I didn't need to, with this explore because it's a very challenging one, or, you know, on the ones where you guys said, like, these explores are gonna be the most difficult, to me, that day is better used as like your flex day to put when you need an extra day for an explore. So it shouldn't really be used as a, let's cram for the test tomorrow, you know? So,
Yeah, or if there was a concept that needs to be retaught that your kids didn't get and we're there, and that gives you time, and we have some flexibility to move it in your classroom, right?
Well, I like how it says practice, because then you can give them practices, so then if
yes. Oh, and part of the Cadillac version of STEMscopes is those workbooks. Do you have one here? I know Kinder didn't get them last year because they were like $10,000 just for 2 grade levels. But we are getting them. So every student will have it's like an independent practice workbook. And that was one of the things that we felt like STEMscopes kind of was lacking, was enough independent practice so that you can see whether they can do it on their own, as opposed to there's a lot of group work and we're doing this together, but then can you do it on your own? So, yeah.
Great, and so that is how the calendar is built for the whole year. We already have it all laid out. Yeah, and we'll still have the amplified flex days like we did for when you're testing. That's kind of also, we built that in too for your testing dates, like for in-class and all that. So we just wanted to show you where our scope is, and the whole year is already built out.
Good job on that calendar. I know that was tedious, but I like how it's a one-stop shop.
Yeah,
So I love it.
Oh, the other thing we went ahead and one-stop shop, speaking of that, we have right here out to the side, you know, Pearl and I would meet and say, okay, what are we doing at the next PLC?
Oh, I like that.
Right? Just like y'all, you know, teachers, what are we teaching next week, right? It's like we would be, okay, oh yeah, they're gonna be in this lesson. Well, now what we've done is we're thinking ahead that we're gonna put what we're gonna be working on in PLC out to the side, so you know and we know what the expectation's gonna be for that PLC.
And
So it's kind of pre-work, like,
And the pre-work,
pre-work, you can just, you know, whenever you have it's not gonna be like an email on Friday. Hey, it's funny, because sometimes, like, it would be.
We talked about that.
We were not ahead in our planning, and so then we're putting on you, like, hey, on Friday, oh, don't forget for Monday, we need you to read this, that,
It's
the
funny,
other.
because we had a conversation, I think you stepped out to talk to Baron. Yeah, we talked about that and how they would see this email coming from Davila, or Brindley's down here, and they would be like, an email on a Friday, and they didn't read it, or they delete, right? It's your weekend, your time, and so we did that. Yeah, that's funny.
We also put on there.
And so that is gonna help guide us, so we'll definitely tell you what the pre-work is in advance. We'll have it here, what we're gonna be doing in that PLC, so you'll be aware,
And you're gonna put on there who's the facilitator, like.
well, for the most part, we're gonna be facilitating first, and then when it gets to that point, yes, we'll be talking.
But math and ELA?
Yes,
You're
we're
gonna
gonna talk
facilitate?
about ELAR another time.
Okay.
Yes, but yeah, we're gonna, we'll talk to the leaders about ELAR. We just came up with some ideas today, actually. We talked about Amplify and PLC and ELAR. So yeah, we haven't figured it out exactly, but we'll have those conversations. You definitely will be hearing from us. Okay, okay. So that is what step one was, understand the big picture, where the bullet is read the suggested scope calendar along with the campus scope and sequence. And we talked about those things that are built in there, the suggested and our scope. And I know we already got feedback, so I'm not gonna ask to share out what you think about it, cause it sounds good. And so that is what we're gonna do real quick. We're not gonna turn and talk, and we can share out loud. How can understanding the scope's big picture help you plan effective lessons and address student needs? And how can it improve student outcomes? Because everything we do is for improving student outcomes. So what do you think about this step one? How can understanding the scope's big picture, step one, help you plan effective lessons and address student needs? Anybody?
You can know how to differentiate, because I know me and Luna are gonna have supposedly the higher kids, so that way we can look and see like about how far we need to push them.
Okay, because you have that future expectation, and you'll know
I'll know where they're
right
coming.
and where they're coming from. Those important pieces to the big picture. Anybody else over here?
I think just really like honing in on the CRA model though is gonna, if we're understanding the big picture, utilizing that will help build a strong foundation.
And you're gonna feel like you know what's up ahead, right? And that's gonna be developed more in the steps we have coming up. So we're gonna take a 10-minute break now. You can make those phone calls, use the restroom, and we'll see you in 10 minutes, and then we'll start step 2. Yeah, we're only doing this.
Of what?
Yeah, it gets faster, that was like and step 4 is fast.
Yeah, let me go check if I have burn marks now.
Oh no.
Speaking of coffee yesterday, I spilled my coffee on the other
She said it, I was like, she was so excited about getting her coffee.
I didn't even go there. I didn't go there.
Okay.
I didn't, but I spilled my coffee while I was driving and burned my legs.
Oh,
But luckily,
you can't even tell.
it dried.
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, go with foam or stay with stains. I'm like, I'm gonna stay with stains.
Yeah,
But
but no, you can't even tell.
yeah,
And I was thinking, I'm not sure if it's like
Yeah.
colored. I was like, no.
I don't think it did. I just, and I have trauma because this happened before when I was like in college. I spilled it in my car. The lid wasn't on right, and I was going downhill. So it just like, well, this morning I was like, it's hot. I'm gonna. Well, I hit the. So it was like, and I was like, Joey's like, check the cut. Does it say anything? Because we're gonna sue.
I'm gonna my cheeks.
It probably has somewhere contents are hot.
About that situation. Tony said that yesterday. He had
Oh, yeah, the CRM model. Right, cause your guidelines.
The principle, the concept,
I heard for that CRA model.
Personal level. And so it felt
Just
like,
knowing the.
like, I wanna check that out.
Yes, they're already in the work already with
Yeah.
lesson and
Do
situation.
you remember during our meetings, I would say, remember, you only have to, you don't have to dive into the day, this is adding, this is subtract. You know, moving too fast, doing numbers plus something, that was really in your lane. It was concept, right? That's right.
So much energy.
Yeah, that's
Getting
what,
things done.
I was kind of trying to guide you up, right? Because,
I'm like, can I I knew that
And
was a
it's kind
compliment.
of like when you said, listening to the sounds,
Right.
you know, all that is the foundation.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's what I was asking, like,
All positive.
are we gonna go through that thing?
I think we need
I
to.
think we need to,
Yeah.
during PLC.
Like when we do that first math class, we kind of
Yeah.
adjust what we presented here to fit the
Yeah, I think that's a good
Like
idea.
our needs, you know, as part of
She
that.
didn't think she was gonna like it.
You know, our
I can understand that.
Okay.
You know,
pre-K on it,
So-
you know, it's for any learner
Right.
really. So I think those are valuable, but the CRM model for there makes a mistake for pre-K. It's
Yeah.
definitely that. So,
and this
Mhm.
other comment about.
Am I missing anything? Do I need to go back and say anything?
no, because I think everything.
Or we've been getting everything the
Yes,
same?
yes.
Okay. Okay, good.
Towards the end.
Did.
This next step is gonna take some time. And then,
She said that was something.
okay, we're gonna do assessment. And assessment shouldn't be so much for people.
You know, and she's like,
As far as.
I don't wanna do this, and I wanted to go to stay in high school, or maybe it was just a vent, you know, that came earlier.
So that's fine, that won't take that long, but just so they can come back and talk about it.
Yeah. Let me dig
It doesn't
into
take long.
what was
This
going
one,
on.
I don't think, I know, I want to see it yesterday, but I don't think we
I'm
need.
sure it's not anybody, cause I
Well,
didn't know
and
she
she's
was gonna
not-
go anywhere.
Yeah,
so
she's not.
somebody, but
Yeah, so, this one, like, if you know, then you're trying to.
Yeah, yeah, and it's conception.
Yes.
What does this assessment mean to us, right? And then we'll get ready to go.
lunch, and I said, you know, I was going through like.
Oh, material for content materials that we don't have.
Because that's a big job.
Yeah, we need to
District,
you know.
they just
Oh,
moved over
okay.
and
Hold on.
started,
We didn't have this
she's
over here.
already,
Yes.
the secretary is
Yes.
about to start. And so I did talk to her, and I said,
Yeah.
Cause that's gonna,
she
I'm gonna,
things like that, and you know, problem.
Yeah.
She told me to do it, and I'm gonna do a full timer. And I honestly think Stacey can do things, so if you want to outside Stacey for.
I said, I wish I could.
So.
Oh, tomorrow, oh, is it gonna come in time?
And he's at the
Oh.
I said, I wish I
I
could.
thought you said you were, but,
No,
oh, you
no,
got that,
Edward is a
okay.
shop-
Are those
I was at
tennis
Academy,
court?
yeah, he sports for my entire, he's like, not.
Conversation was also happening between, so she said, she, and that was part of the.
Hey, on a side note, cheer, were they gonna, oh, I told Denise today with Marisa, but I don't know if she did or not, to see if they were gonna do like more of the dances and stuff with the band, like, cause now that we have Mr. Torch back,
Oh, yeah.
I know, cause Jay did color guard, and so they were sending out like, hey, this is what we're gonna do, don't think we pay this, and do that, like sending out their routines and their videos. So I told Denise, like, those are a couple songs already that we know they're gonna do because color guard's practicing them. If y'all wanted, like cheer wanted to make up something, like to go along with it, and I said, you can see what they do, and you don't have to
We are a
know
lot.
exactly what they do, but at least that's a start point to say like, hey, this is what they're doing. Or we already have these dances that would go with whatever song, just to kind of help them out. But that way I can reach out to Mr. Torch and say, hey, I noticed that y'all were sending these recordings, I got them on January. Cause January 7th, because she's gonna do varsity color guard.
Uh-huh.
So,
She did at one point.
that's why I'm getting all those recordings, to see if he wouldn't mind like sending more recordings, so that way.
That should be taken with a grain of salt, like that's
Cheer
just a
to
transition
to do,
plan.
if,
So,
I mean, get with her and see if they wanna do something,
Well,
that way I'll reach out to them.
Last year they tried to get with the band.
Right, but it was, yeah,
And so, I think they probably did, cause I know they like, they used to like.
and then that'll help them also, and I told Denise, like, just add different, like, this did not feel broke, like, you know, the haze on, hey, go, hey, or like, whatever cheer, whatever songs there are, there's certain beats where you can add, like,
Right,
go, big red, or whatever
right.
it may be, so.
I'll let Melissa know,
so,
because I know that.
we cannot have this office
been-
drama gossip. We need to squash that, like, it, she should have.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
Like I said, I don't mind reaching out to him, and I already have a couple of them just from
Yeah,
color guards, so.
yeah, I'll let her know. I'll let
That way
her
at least
know
it's a
today.
starting point, like get a few going, that way it's not so much
It's a good thing we're students out of town.
Yes. Yes, yeah, cause we need to get in and start, we need, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
They let varsity go down. And then they put, so last year,
Sure.
Yeah, I remember seeing them trickle in.
and, Lisa,
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah, we talked about it
Okay.
beforehand, yes.
Anybody else has any part-time?
Yes, I told her.
You did, okay,
Yes,
thank you.
to, if there were car tags left in their boxes that they didn't get, or the room that didn't get passed out, they're bringing back to us. The only one is, Becky had one,
I mean, freshmen do
because
it.
it's signed to the
The
tag.
freshmen
She
do,
gave
but
the
they're not gonna
tag
get
and
on
her
Friday.
accidentally left it in the classroom.
Right.
So
They're
she
gonna
called the
come
parent,
down.
she left the tag in the office in an envelope with the name and told Stacy, so the parent's gonna come pick it up.
Yes,
What is her name?
This one is on the side.
and I did volleyball.
No, Alexis.
Oh,
Robles.
Alexis.
Yes. Yeah, but there's, that's not too many vacations.
Yeah.
You said Jordan was running school there.
Yeah.
So then,
I
three
think that,
sophomore,
And that's hard because like Janice is a base for one of our,
that's right.
Janice is a base for one of our sons.
And then Rapids is a
Rapids
flyer.
is a flyer for.
different,
Oh, yeah.
Because it was,
And then Johnson and Janice are in the same center.
oh, that's right, so Deanne won't come out.
Yeah.
Until
all
the
together.
end.
Yeah.
Unless she goes up with whoever Rackwood's group is, cause she won't be there. Hopefully they'll miss two.
Oh, you're right, maybe they will.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know there's a stunt group that they're. And Marisa loves her stuff, Marisa's with Johnny and.
Janice,
Yeah.
And she loves it.
Okay.
So.
So right now we have different groups.
I know, I keep seeing Marisa.
Friendly. Oh, yeah. So what do we share this again? I can afford to go to
Just like you.
I can do that, but I can do that. Yeah, it's like, it's I can't, like, I just can't afford that. Just let you know.
It's just more like exercise. But all that, we can afford it.
I couldn't. I know. One of the Halloween things that we were looking at it. Where do you go first? Nowhere. Yeah, I missed it. Cause I was talking to her.
Okay, I think everything's back right, yeah. Okay, we're gonna go on to step 2. Know your destination. Step 2. Okay, step 2. If I can have someone read the first bullet, just the black bold one.
Read the content, support, and application for instruction.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull out our content support again. It's not the TE, the gray one that we copied, it's this, and it's this content support is not in the TE, so this is one of those, again, that we're gonna be making copies. In the new format, it is right here under the suggested scope, so just in case you don't remember that, it is right there, the tabs are not at the top, we'll see that. So you're gonna read that, and implications for instruction. So implications for instruction is this one sheet. And what we did was, the content unwrapped, this implications for instruction is in the content unwrapped, but we didn't want to copy all the content unwrapped because this is really the only piece we need, because some of the information from content support is repeated in content unwrapped. So we just
copy and pasted the important implications for instruction. So those are the two items you're going to read, the content support and the content unwrapped. We skimmed it earlier, remember? We kind of skimmed it, right? Yes, we skimmed it in the pre-work. And so now you're really gonna read it, okay? And you're gonna highlight, annotate, and record thoughts. You're gonna answer these questions, think about these questions. What do students need to know and be able to do? And what are common misconceptions for this scope, this unit, okay? So what do students need to know and be able to do? And what are the common misconceptions? We're gonna give you 5 minutes to read and underline and annotate or highlight, whatever you wanna do, and the implications for instructions. All right, so we'll set the 5-minute timer and you may begin. Step 2. Okay, just a show fingers, how many more minutes you need. It's a lot, so we can give you a few more. Show finger, two more. Okay, we'll give you 2 more minutes. Okay, you're gonna have a couple of minutes to turn and talk to your neighbor, the person you've been collaborating with, and share what you found before we share out.
And then when I showed it to her, so she started like longer that year, and then
Okay.
Backwards, and then I like how this is the
And your lots of good collaborating discussions happening. So let's go ahead and share out. 3, 2, 1. Someone we haven't heard from. Who wants to share out? Someone who we haven't heard from.
we talked about how at the very end where it says coming attractions, how it doesn't just focus on the grade before and right after, but it goes all the way up into fifth grade.
Love, and that's what Pearl was just talking about. So y'all remember when we were going to RBs? The coherence, number 3, coherence of key concepts. It says connect concepts within and across grades along a strategic progression of learning so that new understandings are built on previous foundations. Mathematics tells a continuous story, so we love what you said because this right here is the continuous story that's happening. That's the RB's number 3 that we're talking about. You know what's in your lane, but do you think it really helps to know what is gonna be for our kids all the way through 5th grade? It really emphasizes the importance of what you're doing here, right? That they need this conceptual understanding, because here's what they're doing in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, all the way to 5th. It's like going in deeper to that vertical alignment, right? It's really important. And during the break, Amy was talking about, when we were having a conversation, Amy said, you know, are you okay? I have water back there.
I have it too.
Okay. Amy said, you know what? I really think pre-K needs to have a little training on the CRA model, because we're learning in here and they are what they say in STEMscopes that they're coming with. And yes, we do that vertical alignment during PLC pre-K, right? And they know what's gonna come in kinder, but do they really know how deep we go with the CRA model, the how? That's what, so we're already thinking about what PLC we're gonna go in to do that. So good, lots of good conversation, so good. Kiss your brave, Venegas. All right, someone else wanna share something else? What do students need to know and be able to do, or what are the common misconceptions? What did we talk about?
I was telling her it was funny, I read in the misconceptions that they may not be able to look at a quantity and supersize it, and then over here on this content support page, it says students instantly see how many objects are in a group of 10 without counting.
Yeah.
So it's a misconception, but it's also something they're expected to do.
Yes, yes.
I think,
By the end of the year, though.
well, that's gonna help build for supervising, so that's what.
So some of this is just exposure, like, I thought about it earlier when I was like, well, how do I make someone go to 20? And I don't think it was if they're expecting them to,
It
it's
says
just
only
giving
go
them
to
that
10
routine.
on here.
No, but like earlier when I
Oh.
was at one of the explorers,
Oh,
I
yeah,
had that
yeah.
question on the, I think it went to 20. But I think it's just like getting them that exposure for later.
And if you remember the way they broke it down, like, yes, it was Explore 1, but then we don't finish that unit. We will do counting objects, Explore 1, and we do something else, and then we go back to counting objects later on to do it. So we have to follow the scope that they created, right?
Yeah, that building upon each other, right, yes. And then, sprinkling it back in, right,
Right.
bringing it back in, you're right. It's not for mastery, the first explore, right? You know, that's what we know. It's that continued exposure over time, okay? Anybody else have another misconception? What are common misconceptions?
I don't know, building off of like these are, it's not for the misconception, but maybe something for us personally, because we're talking about how we don't know if we'll get there. I highlighted, it said the scope was written to stay within 20, but includes standards for counting to 100, so refer to the daily numeracy activities to meet those standards and build the skills.
Yes, I'm so glad you found that, because if you remember our suggested scope and calendar, on our big scope and domain calendar for our team, our kinder team, we went by the suggested, but we only put there the skill builders, foundation, the skill basics, the foundation builders, and the explorers. But there is more on the suggested. There's warm up, and it may be 5 to 10 minutes is recommended. And there's daily numeracy where some of these counting things are happening. But if we're saying we're gonna spend whole group 60 minutes, where are we gonna do that daily numeracy, right?
Well, we would, in like, not our beginning, that number top,
The beginning of the lesson?
or,
We don't
oh, we don't have that number top.
Yeah, so if we place the daily numeracy at the beginning of the lesson, then we're still staying within the whole group that says 45 to 60 minutes, but we'll have to choose that 50-minute, right, to do the whole group, and the 10 minutes to do the daily numeracy. So this is built in their suggested scope. We just didn't put it on the calendar, but we know that some of those things are important. We didn't put the number of minutes it was gonna take, so we'll have that flexibility to, and we need to put in those daily numeracy activities that are important, especially counting, because we know all our kids didn't have that. And to have that daily exposure, and it may not happen every day, maybe it's 2 or 3 days a week that we do the daily numeracy, build it into our whole group time.
Or like it
Or
says
you
on
could-
here, they could use a resource, like I know some days I would get out the number lines or whatever to point and count, and some days we would just do it orally. Or,
Yeah.
But I think it's important they say different variations of it. because-
Yeah.
Yeah, and it says their path, chart, line.
Different, yes, expose them to all those tools, right? Donna, were you gonna say something?
Oh, yeah, you can also like steal away 5 minutes of your small group time to do daily numeracy. Like, oh, we're about to move into a small group for math, let's do a little daily numeracy
Yeah,
first.
but daily
It's like
numeracy is very valuable to see their conversations, they're verbalizing what they're
Yes.
saying, they're making connections off of each other, and sometimes they make connections in some of those slides that I don't even see myself, and I'm like, wow, little Johnny, awesome, like, I always say Johnny or Jessica, I don't know. I just names.
I say Bob. Everybody's Bob.
But yeah, I mean, so just hearing those academic conversations that they're having and using that academic vocabulary in the daily numeracy is so invaluable.
Yes, good, yeah, lots of great stuff. The other thing too, I wanted to say, these pictures, I don't know if we had them in the content support before, but this really reminds me of Antiques Resource, how we had that clarification document that said all the tools and it had pictures of what it should look like. This is the new format that they've gone to and really share a lot of knowledge before we start, the background knowledge and the pictures of what it needs to look like, or tools you can use, right, or what they should be doing, right, and we know they're not all doing it. But the coming attractions too is right in alignment, like we said, for the Math RB, so lots of good content support in that, okay? And then, so we know in the end, these are all implications for our instruction, right? And we'll be able to dive in when we do the lesson internalization more on what we're gonna use and what we're gonna vary. Okay, good stuff. All right, so now we're going on, we're still in step 2, but we're in the second bullet of our protocol. Can someone read that? And you'll have to read the whole statement since that's part of the sentence.
Complete the endoscope assessment for am I reading right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Second bullet in step 2. Yes, that's right.
Okay, complete the endoscope assessment from the perspective of a student. For each question, what mistakes might students make?
Okay, so I'm pretty sure we did this last year where you got the assessment for the scope. All right, and there was different things we used, but we did print out the scope assessment, and it should be in your packet somewhere. This is the student handout, right? And it may look different than what we used last year. Some of the scopes changed just a bit on the materials or maybe the assessment. So if this is not, it's okay, but this is one that they put in. So what we're gonna do is individually, not with the partner, you're gonna take the test. And you're gonna take this assessment like you're a student, and you're gonna think through a student's mind, what are some misconceptions they may have about the assessment. It can be mistakes they made with the concrete representational part of it, right? Or it could,
concrete on here.
well, I don't know, we'll have to read, yes. Count the number of objects, this is a pictorial, right, and counting. Yes, so yes, in generally speaking, you'll have to see what kind of mistakes they might make, right, using the CRA model, just think about it like that. And then, also, it doesn't mean just the math part of it, the concept, but the whole, the written part, the format of the test too. So just keep that in mind because there might be a misconception about the objects all close together. Just keep that in mind. So we want to think of like a child is. So we'll give you just a few minutes because y'all's is shorter than other grade levels. So we'll put 10 minutes, no talking at the time you're taking the test. Like a real student, no talking please. Oh, I'm sorry, pause real quick. We also printed out the technology enhanced questions because, and we know the staple's in the wrong place, okay? They're not gonna necessarily take the first scope online test, we know that, but there might be some good questions that we might use from this on paper to add to or replace. So you are gonna use the technology enhanced questions. It could be one big test, it could be replacing questions, but you'll go ahead and use that as well to take, like they were taking that part of the test. You will not need to use the student journal, the cards or the exit ticket. That's for a lesson. It doesn't have to do with the scope test assessment.
For each unit, I'm gonna have one of those for each unit. For like these types of things. I know you're not, but because I use these types of things. But like, I feel like I would
Remember, think like a student in your class. What mistakes, misconceptions will they make? Okay, does anybody need a little more time to finish the test, or are y'all good? Thumbs up if you're good. Okay, I think everybody showed me a thumbs up. Okay, we'll go ahead and stop the timer. All right, so what mistakes
teach them to draw a line or put a dot, they don't know when to stop yet sometimes. So
Right.
even if we had like small, items where they could place on top to kind of help count, or even just slide and count as an option.
Well, and drawing a line through it is also representational, right? Like, there is no concrete happening, and so
Like
that,
actually having the two items in one hand.
yeah, like,
Instead of having
get
it
your
on
little
paper.
cubes, right, and put a cube on every duck, and then count, right, 1, 2, and they can move it, and, yeah, so.
And
You have to get the right numbers also, so.
You would have to teach
Oh,
them.
yeah, some are not gonna be ready to write the numbers
Yeah.
either.
I heard someone say you're gonna have to teach them do it, right?
You'll have to teach them how to put it on the picture and move it off.
Exactly.
That's how we're
So,
gonna do that.
exactly, you know, seeing the end goal in mind, if that's one of the things we're gonna move to, is making that question where they have to put the object on there, so they can have that concrete on there, then we're gonna have to plug that in lessons. And so in a minute, we'll really dive in, to the explorers in just a minute. In the next steps, you'll see, just briefly what the explorers are, and we'll have to keep that in mind, so that when we're doing lesson internalization, where would that be a good fit that we would expose them to this? Obviously towards, you know, the later explorers, because we really wanna hone in on the concrete in the first ones, right? Okay, so keep that in mind. Who else did you want to say something else?
Oh, yeah, one of the things that we discovered similar to, in first grade was that, in the explorers, the representational part, it's like they're creating the picture based on the situation, like they're gonna draw the picture, they're gonna draw the circles, but on the test, they were given the picture, and nowhere was that in any explorer where they're given the representation, and they have to count it or do something, add the blue clouds and the red clouds together. It was always a situation where the kids then had to draw, and so, yeah, they may not even know what to do with the picture.
Well, I think a lot of that is because we were missing the workbooks.
Oh.
So now that we have the workbooks, they might have that in
Yes.
there.
So we need to add in, yes, so we need to make sure
those
kids are,
opportunities.
presented with the representation, and then now we know
Are we able to
what
view that, just to make sure, I'm not saying we need to stop
Yeah,
now,
look online.
yeah, online, but I'm saying before we
Well,
start.
it has the student activity pages embedded, like the student files, but we don't know if those are the one, if those copies are gonna be in the workbook.
Okay, so. till
Because we haven't looked at kinder, like we haven't seen a
Is the
kinder level
workbook something that you incorporate into the lesson, or
It
is it
In the
like an extension kind of?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if it's included in the time that they allot, like the
workbook.
time
it's
for
not,
each day?
because it's not part of the it's extra. It's like an ancillary materials, it's not, so it doesn't talk about that independent practice workbook, but in
So it's
here,
not gonna be like embedded in there, like do this work.
It's
No.
not like the student journal where it says do.
No,
this,
yeah, it's
and
not
that.
embedded.
You still have to print that and.
it's one of the
separate
extra
what-
things,
okay.
yes.
But we could incorporate it from the
Right.
workbook into the lesson, so they do have exposure to
Yes.
it, yes. And
Yes,
so we'll hone in on that when we do the lesson internalization. Is this a good fit to place that? Because knowing the end goal in mind, because we've taken the test, right? And know that that's gonna be a misconception or mistake for students because they haven't had that exposure. That's the key thing, is knowing ahead of time, right?
I just really like how she said putting the dots on the pictures, so we're kind of doing two birds with one stone.
And so having that conversation in here as a team, we all know we're gonna have to do that, right? Not Alyssa over there and Kellen Hicks over here are the only ones doing it, right? It's about that equity. Everybody's doing that, knowing that that's the expectation we're gonna have for our
I feel like
kids, right?
that's one thing that was hard last year, was there was that disconnect between the assessment and the lessons.
Yes.
Like there's a piece missing, like
Yes.
you have to know how to do this to be successful on the assessment, and it wasn't in any of the explorers.
right, and so then that's where we add our teacher magic, we have to
Yes.
add it in, because we
Yes.
know that it is important, should students be able to count these objects and write the number? Yeah. So we have to make sure that we're adding in where it's appropriate in the explorers to like expose them to this type of thing.
They will, there's a scope and sequence online, and hopefully we'll get to the components, but K.2B, that's where that TEAC is writing that number, that's part of that TEAC. But you'll have an opportunity to hit that TEAC again, if they don't have it, and represent numbers to at least 20, so we can go into and see, when's that gonna come again, just, keeping in mind.
The mastery of that isn't expected in the first unit, yeah.
Well, that also goes like with our daily numeracy, like I would have my kids write their numbers every day.
Yes.
Like
So
that's
I-
just every day.
You embedded that activity every day.
When they would walk into my classroom, that was something like, that's like already engaged, because some of them don't eat breakfast, so I would have them already like, let's practice writing your numbers, and so that was just something that happened naturally, as part of the routine, starting at 7:30 to come in and get that brain engaged from the get-go. So, I mean, that's something else, like, if you don't have that time throughout your day, then, consider it as like, just getting your brain ready, for like, right there, if you're not eating breakfast, or even if they are eating breakfast, their neighbor might be there writing the number and then counting them out, practicing that correspondence. Just a thought, if you have that luxury.
Well, then we'll have to make sure, cause there will be some kids that can count it orally, they'll be able to say there's 10 there.
Yes, it's that
And they
right.
can't write it, and if I'm not
Yes.
standing over them, and I haven't been really observing what they're doing, I'm not gonna know if they have like nothing in there, they just want a number they know that they stepped
Right,
in.
yeah, they might
And it's
understand the
not an
concept,
issue
but
of
they
them
can't
not being able to
demonstrate it.
count, it's
Right.
the numerator.
It's that right.
Yeah.
Counted correctly, but they're not right. Because
One of
I had kids that
the,
did that last year, they were so frustrated on the.
Oh.
They were like,
Visual
I'm like,
support.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. So it's really important, so I know, last year I think we made some adjustments because we were like, well, they're not ready, we don't wanna, like, we shouldn't be holding them accountable for writing the number when they're, like, this is not developmentally or, in the progression, it's not appropriate yet for them to be held accountable to write the number. However, I was able to, we were able to meet with a principal in, we all went. SAISD, thank you, I was like, it was not Southwest, SAISD, and we had lots of conversation about assessments, and what cut scores were we using on unit assessments and benchmarks and all the things, and I know it's so different because everybody but us has STAR, but we also, part of our, like, this feeling of responsibility is getting kids ready to take the STAR, and if we don't, like, so then it's like, well, how do we know if our kids would have passed STAR or not? Like, we don't have that, and so I've mathematically worked it all out based on MAP scores and things like that, but I started working on the same application for our approaches, meets, and masters, and I know we were talking about meets, but I'm like kind of rolling it around in my brain. As a teacher, I remember I wanted to know still who were my approaches kids, because those are the kids on that bubble, right? Those are the kids, can I push them into meets? Or like maybe they're on the low end of approaches, like keep them in there, like push, keep them in that approaches, don't lose them to the did not meets. So I'm kind of going back in my mind, and I think, and one of the things that principal said was, they run assessments at STAR cut scores, so that throughout the year, they're like, we're not doing 70, 80, 90, because that's not realistic, right? That's not our accountability. Do we want kids at 80? Yeah, we do, of course we do, but we also really need to know, like, are they on track? Are they on track to pass the STAR test, right? And, that necessary evil, like, hopefully it's rolling back around. They're gonna have a special session, we may be eliminating STAR, which would be wonderful, but that's our reality, right? That's our reality, so.
And you also wanna know, are they able to complete the skill
Yes.
to what it said?
That's right.
To the expectation. So, because little Johnny can count to 10, but if he can't write it, well then are they really meeting the skill?
That's right.
Because then
Yes.
later on.
Data,
down the road,
it's
data.
all data,
So if you have half your kids that can verbalize it but can't write it, well then your data's gonna show, And you wanna see what your data is, because then that's gonna help you grow, and it's gonna help your progress go, get up to mastery level, because
You will have to go around and listen in if they're
Yes.
counting though,
I was
that's the thing
gonna-
I was saying, because
This
you
may
can't
be a
just give this
small group
in-
assessment, for
Well,
sure.
because it's
No,
almost like
no,
both are valuable, like I need to know who can do this as is,
Yeah.
but then I also know who can be successful in the accounting but can't write yet.
Correct.
So that way I know who to work with, I know
Yes,
who to
the
pull. So you
innovation
know,
part.
so you kinda need both, like,
And those are your kids that are gonna be, like, by the end of the scope, I can't write my number, I'm probably gonna be an approaches kid, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I can do the other things, but I can't write the number, I'm that approaches kid. I'm that kid like that's on the bubble, I've got part of the skill, but I don't have the whole thing. And so it's still gonna show that they're on their way, so, yeah.
I was watching this teacher in my program, and she was doing an assessment, and she gave it as is, like Amy said, like, this is your standard, this is what you need, like, this is what I'm expected, you're expected to know. But then, like those kids that can orally count but not write the numeral, is whenever she pulled them to, like, she pulled them to a small group, and she just kind of said, I want you to take this assessment with me. And so she was watching, and then she said, I want you to think out loud. So everything that's going on in your brain, I want you to talk it through. So then she was able to figure it out. And that, of course, this was a perfect setting, you know.
Yeah. In an ideal world.
Yes, and she was in kindergarten first, and she was in a classroom, and then she was able to, she wrote that, so then whenever she went on to the next lesson, she was able to say, okay, remember when you were thinking out loud, you were counting 1, 2, but remember this number is 1, 2, can you write that with me? So then it helped her to differentiate her instruction for the next unit, even though it had nothing to do with counting, but she was still able to like embed that missing pieces so that he wasn't left in the dust.
Yeah.
And so then she went back and she talked about how she went through a small group and she reassessed him to see if there was progression. Of course, this was a perfect setting, and I was like, amazing. But how would it be like you?
and that's what those daily numeracy and those number
That's
talks
what
are
I was
so important,
thinking.
especially at this grade,
Right.
because they have to be able to verbalize what they're thinking, and sometimes they solve their own problem correctly, because you see it, and then they start talking about it, and they're like, oh,
Right.
never mind, but when I was writing, I was confused and didn't know what I was doing, but now that I'm talking about it,
Right.
I can find my own error.
I really liked how she was like, can you think out loud? Because I loved that, and I was like, think out loud, because I had never heard, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure we've heard it, but I was like, wow, I feel like that one statement is very powerful, because we don't know what they're thinking. We're making those assumptions to try to find these misconceptions, but whenever they're literally saying what they're thinking, that's really powerful.
And back to making that full circle to what Amy said, RB's number 2, depth of key concepts. The key words are meets the rigor of the TEKS for each grade level. So in the end, if they really can't do what the assessment calls for, right, are they meeting the rigor of that TEK? Maybe not, but like Donna said, maybe they're approaching it, but they're not able to do it on paper, right? And so that's all tied in with RB's, the rigor of it. And so some of our kids are gonna be able to do the rigor on their own with magic flying colors, like boom, 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 I got it, I'm done, right? But some of our babies are not. And so, but we are meeting the needs of all our students. It's a tier 1 instruction, right? And so just because to honor y'all's time, I know we're not through talking about the test, but we will need to do it as a team and decide what the end product is. So one of the things you're gonna have to put on your meeting time when y'all meet next time, is figure out what we want the assessment to be like, and everybody's gonna have to do it the same way, right? Just like we did last year, y'all came to us with revisions of what it looked like, y'all all gave it the same, then we looked at the data, right? And so you will have to make that decision. Maybe last year's assessment over this unit might be perfect because y'all tweaked it last year, but y'all will need to have that conversation to finish that up. Okay? Huh?
Probably not.
Probably not. Oh, it may not be the same, yeah, now we know, we're diving in deeper, right?
Yeah.
We know, wow, this is not good. We need to do something else, right? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and so keeping that in mind, we also want to decide, and some of those conversations, or what manipulative supplemental aid strategies are we gonna need for student success? I heard y'all saying that. What are we gonna have them use, okay? So, reflecting on that, how can knowing our destination, this is our destination, right? Help you better plan and execute the 5-lesson cycle? Anybody? How can this help us? This protocol, step 2, knowing the destination of where our students need to be at the end to show, to meet.
Figuring out where we need to supplement things like the workbook.
That's one of the things, right?
Which I found like, if we really do take the time to look through the content support, there's so many things that I feel like I highlighted to like tell myself like implementing it in places, but also to like, I think for the teacher misconception, before us trying to say, I need to modify, know that there's like places where it says it's gonna come back. Or I wrote things that I felt like, okay, this said like learning quantity before they learn to count. So yeah, I know that's part of what I read in the TEAC, but I put a note for myself like, well, this is gonna build their understanding with that comparative language that flows like in Explore 2 or things like that.
Yes.
So I know in a perfect world we get busy and we don't always have time, but I think this has a lot of support that will go hand in hand with knowing overall where we need to
Totally.
be.
And that's why we thought it was so important that we needed to put it in our internalization protocol. That's step 2. And just so you know, I don't know if we told y'all this, but we, all 4 of us here, and Parker and a few other people, we did step by step to say, and we dived into each grade level and made this based on what we thought were the important things. So we internalized all grade level units, okay? And we said, right here in STEMscopes, they need to read this. So I'm so glad to hear that, because we felt that content support, that needed to be printed out, and we need to look at that because that's a new part and it's very important. So,
Couple comments from my experience looking at 2nd grade with Pearl regarding step 2, know your destination. When we took the endoscope assessment, it immediately was apparent that, like, let's say it was 12, 10 questions, whatever it was, like 80% of the questions used a term that had not been taught in the scope. So we went, okay, let me go back, I keep seeing this word, I'm gonna go back to the vocabulary, it was not in the terms to know, which is listed in your content support. And so then we went back and we're like, okay, where are we gonna teach this word? Like, it's in almost every question, why isn't it in the scope, why have we never said this word before? So that was super valuable. And then, gosh, there was one other thing. It left me.
okay.
But anyway,
And I love what you said in Covio's.
sorry. We also, in looking at the assessment, we annotated like CRA for each part of each question. And then we're able to look back, and then we really further already also looked at, okay, this question, we taught that explicitly in Explore 1. Or whatever, or we didn't teach this very well in any of the explorers, so we also tied each assessment question back to an explorer.
Like we did in Amplified last year, where we had to go and look where it's being taught. That's an important step too. When we get our materials, we need to be able to do that. And then I love what Calvia said about the content support. These are documents that when we're working in the scopes and the lessons, internalizing them, we need to bring these documents back because they are a good tool. Oh, remember we read that in the content support, we need to be doing this. So we'll have access to them online, but you already annotated the information on you'll be able to really zone in on what you put, your notes, and highlight it. So we need to keep these things in mind. And so when a teacher now says, oh, I didn't know that was going to be on the test. What do we know if they say that? They didn't internalize. There should be no surprises that that vocabulary word was on that test because we took it and we went through it. So yes, to what Westfall said, we'll embed it if we choose to use that word or question as a grade level. Okay, so going on, we're on to step 3, examine the arc of learning. And so in this step, you read the objectives of each Explore activity. And so what you would do is you would get your teacher packet. You'll have a teacher edition book, remember this, but you'll get your teacher packet here. And if you turn a couple of pages, the first page you'll see is accessing prior knowledge, the APK. We're gonna skip over the hook as well. We're gonna turn the page past the hook. And then Donna already gave her spill about the APK and the hook, and if we needed to use something else for that to quickly dive into the Explore, that's fine too. So then you get to the first Explore, and it has a little introductory thing there. You're gonna read each summary objective for each Explore 1, and then there's some information there. You'll go turn the page and find Explore 2. So you're gonna make connections between the Explore activities and scope assessment as students progress. Think about the assessment. How do the Explore activities build upon one another? How does the mathematical content in the arc of learning move from simple to complex, right? Through that CRA model, from concrete to abstract. So we'll just give you a couple of minutes because we've kind of already had some of this discussion when we've been talking about how it progresses from Explore. So glance and read the objectives on the top of each Explore. I believe there's 4, right? Yes. So just look through the rest of your packet and read those, and then we'll have a quick discussion. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay guys, we've already had, some great discussions, right? And we've kind of already talked about this. Let's just share a little bit out. So how does it build the arc of learning move from simple to complex? Thinking in mind that CRA model for the Explorers. What's something y'all want to share out?
Okay, so I have a question. So are we kind of going back, I think I kind of sticky note, so we would be using like everything that we have here, looking at the assessment, making sure everything's aligning right, is that?
Yeah, you're basically looking at the Explorers, the objective,
So,
right?
Yes,
We're not quite diving into the lesson. Remember, that's gonna be lesson internalization.
okay.
So we're briefly looking at the objective and how it builds
I went
upon
too far.
each other. Explore each, yes. And thinking
Kind
in
of getting
mind,
an idea of where like, okay, on number 1, on
Yes,
the
using
assessment,
Like what
like
you
the,
had
you know,
mentioned, where
which
we-
Explore do we expect that to show up in or whatever?
yes.
I think it was just like so much going on and we just tried our best.
That's what we missed.
What's that?
That this is the piece that we missed.
Last year, in general?
It's just having time to do this.
Like
To
this-
find where in the assessment
Right.
that is being taught in an Explore. Okay, yeah, because we did that in Amplify, going in to really finding by using that search line. It's different in math, but yes, honing in on where is this taught, and we need to dive real into that high leverage lesson.
Yeah. We're all like trying to tackle different parts, but it had we known exactly the sport, like it actually covers it, it would have felt better. Oh, what happened?
Yeah. Okay, anybody else wanna share out? Melissa said last year, Lisa or Castillo said last year that kind of, we missed that piece.
But I saw something I wanna say.
Okay,
But I know it's not what you want, but.
anybody else? No, that's
Cause I
okay.
did a little bit of a
Anybody
lesson
else?
and then it stuck out and I was like, oh, that's kind of what she said, you have to have that hidden vocabulary so that they know. So one of the lessons they used the word manipulative, I'm like, well, you better make sure you let them know because some of the scenarios they use the word manipulative. And if you have a kid who doesn't have that background knowledge,
Yeah,
it's still
yeah,
confusing.
so when knowing that in advance, you'll know to expose them to that.
You can expose that
First week of
first
school.
week of school.
I had whiteboards, I don't know if y'all have them where it had the word manipulative, so it's like this, you know, that's my sort of.
Okay, Sexton, Lozano, Lopez, anything y'all wanna share? Oh, okay. Examine the art of learning, any thoughts you wanna share out loud? Okay, so that is read the objectives in each explore, and so we're gonna be meeting with you soon. I think we're gonna, on Monday, we found a little time where we'll be able to dive into lesson internalization. And so remember, we are teaching STEMscopes the first week of school, so we still have time, but we do need to finish up what examining the assessment. There'll be time at the beginning of that meeting to do that and make some final decisions, and then dive into a lesson internalization. So don't worry, I know we're getting close to the end, but we do want to give this process some real good time, so we'll have a little bit more time to discuss those things and make those decisions. So we already talked about how we'll ensure all students have access to the grade level content, to know what the expectation is at the end, and make sure, I heard, like you said, manipulatives. You know, making sure that our students are all working with manipulatives, right? And knowing what that word is, because knowing it on the test, that if we keep that word or that question, they're gonna be exposed to that language. So we need to make sure that we're ensuring that all our students are having the opportunities to build that concrete, okay? And then the last step in this is really a short one. When you were looking at the explorers, there was a list on the front page of the Explorer about materials, okay? And we found that we don't have all of these materials, right? And so when we're doing the lesson internalization, step 4 is organize your resources. Use the teacher guide, make note of the materials listed for each component of the 5E lesson. And so you would look at what materials we needed. We decide, oh, we don't have those, we'll use something else, and we'll use an alternative manipulative that we do have. Okay, so making those decisions, knowing what we're gonna be working with, like bear counters, pattern blocks, they have a list of everything you need for each explorer. So step 4 is important to know, because if we know at the beginning of our scope what we're gonna need, if we need to have a PO to order, we need it in a timely manner, right? Before they even get started, because we don't want to pass the unit up and not have what we need, or we need to find an alternative, right? Okay, so that is step 4. Okay, that was a lot, putting it all together. We're gonna just real quickly reflect on the scope internalization protocol. This whole protocol, step 1, 2, 3, 4, that we went through very quickly in 3 hours today. And you're gonna tell me, how will using the scope internalization protocol impact our student outcomes? How will using this to internalize the scope impact our student outcomes?
Well, I think with the end in mind, it's gonna allow us for student outcomes to be better, because we're not only are we knowing what our destination, but we're using the CRA model. So I feel like it'll be strong. We'll have that strong foundation.
Yeah. That is absolutely right. We want that strong foundation. We want it for all our students in every one of your class, right? And really internalizing will know what we're doing. You know, and thinking back in the days where two people would plan the lesson, right? Or they would plan the unit or a few weeks. Who was really doing the internalization there? Just that one person, right? Yeah, right? She was the one who knew what the destination was before everybody else. And some of us didn't know the destination. We were just taking it and doing what was there.
Well, we were
So
so
now
strong
we
in that
own
one subject.
Yeah.
So like if we were,
Yes.
like the math team was strong
Yes.
in math.
Yes. So now, but we teach all subjects, right? And we're those little ones person, right? And we are gonna be internalizing all of our math lessons, so you'll know the end goal in mind. Great
That's
stuff.
my favorite, being prepared.
Being prepared, I know, you're a go-getter, I know. When we were making this, and when we were thinking STEMscopes, I told Donna, oh my gosh, I'm so worried, what if Hicks already started planning? She did. I know, it's true. Donna knows, I would not lie. Donna knows.
You were worried about me?
I was worried about Hicks because she plans way in advance.
Yeah.
And I thought
It was like June. She's like, "Are you going to send an email about Bluebonnet that
Yes.
we're not using Bluebonnet?"
Yeah.
Because Kelly's probably already played
Hicks
it.
is already the first 9 weeks plan probably, but anyway, okay. So
We did have teachers asking, like, are you gonna do one? I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know.
so I did think about you, Hicks. I want you to know I got your back, okay?
No,
Okay,
we're keeping
so-
her pretty busy now.
Okay, I have one thing. It's a little bit off topic. Can you hand me that? Oh, I have it. That particular question. This is kind of going back a couple of
Oh, no,
slides.
no, I
I'm
think-
sorry, but
no, that's
Kelly
okay.
asked me something she didn't want to. Cause she didn't want to interrupt the flow of what was happening, but it is relevant and it's important.
Yeah.
Okay. So question number 6 on the test with the balloons, right? So are kinder students expected to write numbers up to 20
At the end of the year.
at the end of the year, right? Okay. And so this is one where this is a lot, right? Within this unit, it doesn't say kinder is writing numbers to 20 in this unit. Like it was not, I did not, they're writing numbers to 10. So then like, why are we doing this? Okay, this is part of differentiation, right? Kellen and Alyssa are gonna have kids that can do this, for sure, in their classes. This is, if you have a kid, yar.
Whoa.
Okay, this is a kid who maybe is an E, right? This is how you identify those kids who like, hey, right now for this particular skill, teak, whatever, this is an E. If a kid can do this, it's not an S, right? This is your E. So it's okay, but this isn't enough information. Like we will have to, for our data collection purposes, we will also need to know, like if they can't do this, can they still count backwards from 20? And give them, okay, you have 20 cubes. I need you to start 20, and then 19, 18, 17, 16. I have the one-to-one correspondence? Can I take away objects and count backwards? And then, you know, if they can do it with pictures, with manipulative. So we'll add that to Eduphoria so you have that progression. If they can't do this, can they still count backwards from 20, you know?
Now, I am gonna say like, Cade, he could probably do that, cause I know he can write his numbers 1 through 20. But what's gonna trick him is the counting it backwards,
Yeah.
like reading it backwards.
Yes.
Because he's so used to, like in
They'll
class.
write 21
Yeah.
and then they see
He's
18 and
gonna
then
go
they'll
like 20, 21.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because it's backwards on that.
Yes, it's backwards, right.
Yeah, that's a misconception.
So in order for it, because it's a high quality curriculum, it's going kind of towards the, like a proficiency scale. So a proficiency scale is always, these assessments should always have one that is a little bit above.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
that's kind of where,
You can add that in, when we were talking about the cubes, I was like, that could be added in, like, when we're orally counting backwards, I can give them all 20 cubes and we can practice
Yeah.
counting backwards.
Counting backwards is like, leads to subtraction and taking away, and like, we might as well build that bridge right now, right?
Great stuff, yeah, totally. Okay, and so we know, it's almost time, but we feel like these last couple of slides are really important. And so in this whole process, when we're learning about the math RBs, we went over the learning pit. And if you haven't heard about the learning pit is the cycle our kids take a dip in learning, from going from learning to be the pit to success, right? And that's what we want for all our kids during a scope. We want them to go through this learning pit and to, I think I know the answer at the beginning. They think they know, and then the explore happens. It's like, oh my goodness. Creo que sé la respuesta. I put it in Spanish for them. This is not as easy as I thought. Oh no, and they take a dip. I'm confused, right? And then I need to work hard at this, so that there's two connections to the math. Is one, this is kind of like the cycle they go through. Explore 1, Explore 2. They're down here in Explore 2, Explore 3. I need to work hard at this, and they keep being exposed to these opportunities of learning. Then they get, I think I'm getting it. And then at the end, Eureka! I understand. Eureka, ahora entiendo, right? We want them to get to the success. And that's kind of what happens during a scope. No, not everyone's going to get here, but they might be here. I need to work hard at this, or I think I'm getting it. Those approaches kids, like Donna's been talking about. But our kids, they get the grade level material, they might be here and then, right? They take that learning pit. And so that's why it's so important that we internalize, because our internalization is going to help them get from the through the learning pit to that end goal in mind, success, right? And then
Can we go back to that slide?
Yeah.
Okay, I had a little epiphany. Oh, don't forget, I had to write it down because it was gonna fall out of my brain. Too many tabs open. So I was just thinking, what a great tool, like if you have this in your classroom, because it's a visual, right? And we want students to have a goal for themselves, but then also be able to reflect on their own understanding. And that's, they're just learning that, like you're gonna have to teach that, that's difficult. And so with this visual, as kids are learning and you're going through the lesson and the scopes and the skills, you can ask kids to show me where you are on the pit, right? Show me how you feel about this. Are you at the bottom? Is this really hard right now? Or are you, climbing on the ladder? Where are you?
Yeah.
So I just think that would be a cool,
yeah,
to
that's
show.
great. Kiss your brain, Donna.
It ties into the math RB.
It does. It ties into the math RBs. It ties into the CRA model, going from concrete to representational to abstract. In fact, when we were learning about the learning pit, I investigated, I researched, I asked, ChatGPT to help me. I looked for it everywhere. And there were some not so good old models of this. And so I dived into Canva, my new best friend, and I got Pearl involved in it. Pearl, I don't like what the clouds say, or we need it in Spanish for our bilingual teachers, right? Oh, and it's faded. Let's put a blue background. So I have to say, the final, yes, we made it. We had different kids from different nations. Like there's learning pits out there for everybody. But one of the things I learned, and they might have said this, is that the learning pit pertains to a lot of things, social and emotional needs. They have counselors that have the learning pit in their room.
You could do
They have
many social emotional.
social and emotional, yeah, all kinds. The learning pit can make lots of connections in reading, writing, math, right? And so this learning pit is a big thing apparently. And so
we go through it too. Well, we go through the getting the protocol down on paper. We went through this. Getting the protocol
down on paper, we went through this. And so that is a poster, we have it, we're gonna drop it into your file. So, and I can help make the posters. I have a smaller one here, we're gonna leave up all year. And then if you haven't noticed, Susie Westfall had a great idea. I had an extra one, and she told me to print it out. Actually, she directed me to print it out. Anyway, so I printed it out. She said, "We have this blank bulletin board in the hall. Can you put one of those learning pits up there?" So we do have a learning pit in front of the library between the cafeteria and the office. So
Thank you for helping with
we
that.
might find the learning pit anywhere in the building. Okay, so we haven't run out of ink yet. Okay, so and lastly, back to the beginning, making that full circle, we said trust the process. Yeah, that's me. I'm wearing a pink shirt. Yeah, that's me. Without cheaters, much younger. No, I did not look like that. Okay. But the whole idea to this STEMscope internalization is we just need to trust the process, right? Everything's gonna be fine, and we're growing and learning, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna do better than last year. The hard part is, y'all rocked it last year. Y'all had a lot of growth. The hard part is repeating it and growing more, right? So we're gonna take it to that next level. Okay, and lastly, so we already have in STEMscopes our lessons. We don't have to do lesson plans, right? This is done for us, right? We have to internalize it, yes. We have to know what we're teaching, and first teach is the best teach, right? And some of y'all like to still do a lesson plan. That's your preference, that you like to see it in your own handwriting. So you go through this and then you type it up. But that's not required, okay? You can do that if that's your learning style or whatever that keeps you organized. The lessons are here. But what we are going to have to turn in is evidence of internalization. You are going to, but we made this as easy as possible. We created in your drive, in the Kinder Drive, an internalization evidence folder, okay? And so you would click on your name and it opens up to your folder where you're gonna be able to scan and drop your evidence. And the evidence that's gonna be required of you, we're gonna do this for every scope, right? We're gonna do it in here. And do you remember at the beginning I said you needed to do your own internalization? Because not what you and your partner think, it's what you think, what you're gonna be able to refer back to in your notes. You're gonna scan the first and the back page of the first for internalization scope, and that's gonna be your evidence of internalization. You're doing it in here. We're giving you the time to do it with us, right? You just need to scan this with your phone or iPad and upload it into your folder. And I'm gonna show you an example. Yesterday, second grade did this. Cody went in and she scanned scope 1. This is what you'll title the PDF or whatever the file is, scope 1, Cody. And that way we know this is Cody. She didn't have her name on it, it's fine, but she made the file. And so she scanned her document when she was sitting here at the end of the training, and you're gonna upload it. This is her notes, and it shows what she internalized, the notes she wrote, and that's it. That's it.
You already did that in this one.
And you already did this, so you'll get to upload your copy that you did today. And now, is Cody's notes, should they look the same exactly as the person sitting next to her? No, because she internalized it differently, just like you did. But we did have those discussions of what was the same, what was different. It might be similar, but if two people have the same exact scope, and the same notes, that's, then you internalize together.
No copying.
No copying! That's the point! I didn't want to say it, but.
Right? So you're gonna take your, okay, I need to do this for this student, or I'm thinking, it's gonna be different.
It is. And so right now, all we're asking you to is upload, you don't have to do it right now. Pearl is gonna tell you exactly how to do this, okay? Real quick, it is like 1, 2, snap, it's done. It's super fast.
Can we do it with her? Like, is that?
Yes. You can do it with her right now.
Phone
This
or-
is a we do together, right?
If you have your phone or even an iPad, it works either or whatever.
We're gonna put it under,
Put it under.
Okay, right here, sorry,
Sorry.
I'm like thinking, what?
So I had mine on my phone, but,
Okay.
Here's me and my daughter a few years ago. Which way can y'all see it? It's upside down.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Okay, that's upside down for me, but good for y'all, right? Okay, so, my drive, everybody should have the drive, like a symbol for the Google Drive, it's like a triangle. Mine's in an actual separate folder, so it could be in something like that. It is.
Nope, other way.
Yeah, right there,
Okay.
wait, you can make it, yeah, there you go, we can see it, okay.
There we go, okay.
Yeah, right
there. Okay, so does everybody have that? And if you don't, you can go to your app store to install it, or, like it's Google Play to, install it. And if not, I'll get with you later, and
Yeah,
if you
we
don't
can
have
help
it,
you.
we can help you.
And you might have your drive, Google Drive, your personal,
Yeah.
but this is the PISD
So
drive.
that's the main thing,
Yes.
because I do have personal and I have school. When I click on drive right here, mine's already there, you can toggle. I believe mine's already on my school profile, but if not, you would click on this little picture of yourself and it should drop down to what your other drive would say. So like, see, when I do that one, I have my husband here. But I have my personal, my husband, I know all his business, all the stuff right there, right? But I'm on my school one, so I'm gonna leave it there. Okay. Is everybody there on your drive?
I'm there, oh, sorry.
Real
Real
quick.
quick, if I look, okay,
Okay.
is that a little closer?
Is that better? for you?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Alright, so if everybody's there,
How did you
You're
get
gonna-
those folders?
Yeah.
okay, so that's my drive.
that's
my
her
What
drive,
I'm telling you.
you're just
You
on
won't
your
have
drive,
those folders.
she's gonna show you.
Your landing page is your drive, but on the opposite side, you'll have at the top shared drive.
But wait, hold on. What she's asking is, she has this list format, it's right here, tell it.
At the bottom.
So there's right here, there's like boxes, and then there's the list format, and you can go back.
It's your preference.
I
However
like
you
to
like to
have
look at
the
stuff.
folder.
I like the folders, Celia likes the list.
Yes.
It depends, so-
I have learned to like the folders, cause the boss over here didn't like my list. It's like, I did go to the, well, actually, right there is a list.
See, if you go back to shared drive, where I was at, this is why
Shared
I like the this, because I have 100 drives that are shared with me, I have lots of drives.
Uh-huh.
And so, no, I'm just kidding, not 100, she was like, no,
That's what I was.
I'm exaggerating here. So I like to see the images, and once I noticed, I'm like, okay, the eagle is always gonna be the teacher
Your
drive.
teacher drive.
So look for your eagle on your shared drives.
See, mine is like this, it's like all those, like I have backpack tags, requests, like it's not, I guess you just have
It's
to follow
everything
down.
you log into your drive.
Yes.
You're,
Oh, okay, files.
yes.
Anybody else having trouble?
Okay, so I gotta go to files.
Does everybody give me a thumbs up if you found?
And then there's the eagle.
Alright, okay, so now click on your eagle, did everybody find it? Okay, I see thumbs up, and clicking on the eagle,
And then find your eagle.
and once you find your eagle, you are in the Pleasant Primary Teacher Drive, so you're gonna see all the folders that Donna has created right there. And this might be the time we might wanna say, ooh, you know, I don't wanna see all that, I might wanna make it into a list form, because that's a lot of folders to scroll through, so if you don't have it in a list form, I recommend putting it right there in the corner.
And it's an ABC or.
Mine says I don't have permission.
To.
Oh, let me,
Let me add you in.
add, you have to be like a
Are
content
you
manager.
in your PISD?
How far did you get in? How far in did you get?
I'm before I can click on the eagle, but it's not highlighted, like it's.
Are you in your personal? Yeah, check the.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're in your personal.
Because you have to be in the PISD.
I went on my PISD account.
Okay.
You logged in.
So I was able to click on Kinder PLC 2223, but if I try to click here, it's not giving me permission. If I get on Kinder Rocks, like you said, let me in.
Scroll down.
Scroll down to PLC.
Back out of shared drives.
So find PLC. And for PLC, you wanna find Kendra.
This is all the same files. So you'll find Kinder after you find your PLC.
So everybody find their. Alright, and once you're there, you go to internalization evidence. Once you're in your Kinder PLC folder, find your name. So for example, Hicks, are you in yours?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna click on Hicks.
Well, that's my.
Right there on the
Yeah,
Hicks.
that's one comment, this one right now.
She doesn't have anything in her folder, but Hicks, go ahead, and the way you take a picture, you should have an icon of a camera or something similar to that. You can even upload a file in Kinder, you can press the plus signs, but we're just gonna take a picture. So, once she takes, that'll come up and you're.
I don't have the plus button. I can't add to it. I'm here, but there's
On mine, I have
We
this
have an
little
apple, I
scan
have different.
button. A
Yeah.
scan, it's like a phone.
Wait, where are you at?
Okay.
Okay, now it works. Okay.
So where are you, the other way?
Okay,
Oh,
your files.
I see it, okay.
Okay, the three dots at the top.
Just
Well,
like
everybody was so here,
like
right?
it wasn't.
Oh, there's
So
your.
they
Yeah,
have.
there it is.
share?
Jesse was like.
Okay, and where is the list, the eagle?
Not to log
The
in
share.
line, but to
This
go
is
ahead
the
and drive
home.
the item.
Then you're gonna go to share.
Did
And
they
then you go
have
to
edit,
the-
did you give them edit access already to their, like to be a manager? Let me double check. Because you may need to be ELC.
Okay.
Yeah, ELC.
Okay, that's the primary. And then you're gonna find PLC there.
You know what happened? We went back then folder. We went back where we were, you said I had the plus sign. I went back.
You have that.
Internalization of evidence
Folder
and
and I took it.
Yeah, what was the other way was it, it's only one and then you're off. This takes a lot of steps to go to church.
And if you have a camera or scan.
You went into what?
I didn't have it a minute ago,
Yeah,
but when I
that's
went
the
back
scan
to share, that button popped up, and then I like clicked to add, but I didn't do anything.
Yeah,
and then
now
I
you don't have a scan document option.
Went to share.
So when I went the other
Right.
way, I just.
Yeah,
There's
it's
that was
from
on
an
the
apple,
table.
but it from an apple,
Yes.
okay, on the apple, I'm seeing that.
Oh, it's doing it by itself.
Yeah, so we had to get out of the.
See that, I had to go back because we lost her.
See, but once, when I did that,
And then
we go back to where? How do I do it on my whole?
you would move, you would just have to move it one.
It's like an automatic, like one of my sisters just did.
And it does it automatic.
Yes.
You can do more than one.
Now you can do more than this, and you can turn the page, your $2.
I was like, I'm gonna do it myself.
Okay, the other way you can do it is take the picture first and then upload it. So if you take the picture first, try that. With the camera. And then turn the other page. Okay, and then you're gonna send it to, or, yeah, go back to the pictures. Select your pictures, the two. You would have to take the picture, go to pictures. Okay, these are the pictures, and sometimes when you hold down, okay, and then you're gonna share. And then you're gonna take.
I had to give you guys like, I had to make you contributors, so once we have permission to add files, then the plus sign shows up.
Well, I had it somewhere. It says we're in.
And then we share it, and then you're gonna find your name.
Now that we're at it, like that, if I go the other way, I tried it.
That's what's there. Right there, right? And then you're gonna,
There's like testing that goes along with it.
Why is it crooked?
What did we read?
I don't think we'll go back to, you don't have to go back.
I know where it's going. I know what. Scope what?
and then select.
Yeah, make the title like
And then you can, and then upload. Oh, yeah, you can do it.
and then we'll figure out a good title for the other.
And you can put your name, scope one. Just real simple. Okay.
And you can keep working and listening. So I also want you, it's really important for me, for you guys to know that this is not, this whole, evidence